Turns out he wasn't a security guard. He was just a guy in a blue suit. We still have zero information. Where do we go next? I have no idea. My gut says that way. Come on!
I see an ambulance! Confirmed ambulance site!
You'll see the space by the curb where an ambulance was parked just moments ago.
You have any idea where the shooter is?
I was being stonewalled by police, but I couldn't let that stop me.
I spoke to a woman who said that she saw a man being escorted through the mall by police. Could this be the shooter? According to the description, he was a male, aged somewhere between 20 and 60. He's either Caucasian or part Latino or something like that. He was wearing some kind of a jacket. And I wrote something else here, but it got smudged. However, that information later turned out to be false. The shooter, if there is one, remains at large. Needless to say, our thoughts are with the victims here today, if there are any, which we don't know yet.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call to get in on the conversation with us. That is 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Jay Noon.
And Joa.
And we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, as usual. There's a lot in the news. And I titled this show, I tried to make it like shorter than the typical saying that I'm talking about here, but I titled the show FBI Agent Gets Taste of FBI Medicine. I had to shorten it a little bit. I was going to put a taste of his own medicine, but he got carjacked. An FBI agent got
I heard about that.
Carjacked on Capitol Hill, it says.
Well, I mean, this is how karma is going to work, right? I mean, we're all going to be subject to it someday.
Yep.
Whatever you present to the ether will return to you at some point in time.
I really believe that. Do you believe in karma?
Yeah,
Joa?
yep, I do. I think it's funny that it's happened to an FBI agent.
Right.
It's wicked karma. And like I think it happened to a congresswoman as well.
It did say it's a string. It's one in a number of incidents of jacking happening in Washington, D.C. this year. So I didn't know if they meant like that happened to politicians more often or just like in DC in general.
Well, it's just it's because of the policies of the double standard, as we are going to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law possible, and we're going to lie about it, and we're going to do everything we can to prosecute, right, conservative types or libertarian types or people who are against the pedophile elite. We're going to prosecute them. They're going to prosecute the January 6ers. I mean, there's people who went to the Capitol building an hour after the event there, and they just walked up the steps and like looked around, took a couple pictures, and left. And they are in jail still.
Yeah,
and they are convicted. And then
solitary.
you have like we want to talk about the Capitol building. It was May 29th, I believe, 2020. A bunch of left-wing Antifa guys, burnt a guard shack, and and there was a bomb found
In the same building?
Well, this was at the Capitol building. There was a guard shack, or the White House or something. I think it was the Capitol building. I don't remember all the details, but no investigation. The most heavily surveilled, area, possibly in the world, and there's no investigation. Nobody's, looking into it. And this is just, classic. I mean, like, Joa, you and I were in court for one of my wife's hearings last summer, and you caught on live stream somebody, was like had a DUI, and they like went off like the road, and they like destroyed someone's
and the bailiff's
property.
son was like a retired bailiff. And his son was the one.
And let's be very clear. A bailiff is a member of the parasite class, and also if he's retired, he's collecting from the Judicial Pension Fund, which I really want to talk about.
His kid stole a cell phone and brought it to one of those cell phone exchange things. You just put it in the machine, it tells you how much it's worth, and he sold it, and he got cash, and he got caught. He got caught stealing it, and it was a retired bailiff's son, and he had to plead guilty, and they basically gave him a slap on the wrist. Anybody else would get way more punishment than that.
And you got that
and
all
they
on video.
frontlined him. They put him right first.
They gave him special treatment because he's of a protected class.
That's
because
right.
He's a member of the parasite class.
Who's this?
This was at a court hearing. It was a bailiff's son.
Oh.
I thought it had something to do with the DUI, but I was
Nope.
wrong. But
no,
yeah, thanks
he
for
stole a
clarifying
cell
that.
phone.
So even worse, this actual victim. Theft.
How did you find that?
We were there for Jay's.
Oh, for the guy. Yes, the guy that went before you guys. He was crazy.
Yeah, and
he stayed around
was
and hung out.
talking trash to us, and
he was like talking trash about Ian, not knowing it was Ian. He was like saying, "Those freaking people, blah blah blah. There's like
Right.
pedophile or whatever."
Well, so this is how deranged everything's going. So now what's happening is, crime. The bottom line is crime in these cities with these, hardcore liberal, libtard is how I like to refer to it, policies, because liberal actually means freedom. The people who are considered liberals are actually not liberals; they're commies. But they are. So what's happening because the crime's so rampant? Because like Joa had just pointed out here, if you steal a cell phone, you're just going to be let off scot-free. There's not going to be anything to do. You'll probably plead guilty.
If your uncle works for the government
Right.
or whatever it was.
Or even
it
if
was his father.
Oh, his father.
Yeah, and you don't even have to have that political connection, because if they don't care what you do to anybody, but if it's a crime that is against a state, which there's no such thing as a crime against a state, because the state cannot be injured. The state doesn't have any rights that can be violated. But if it's anything like that, it's going to be maximum penalty. But if it's like shoplifting, if it's like, these snatch and grabs, if it's like carjackings, like the police aren't even, responding to those kind of things.
They'll never even investigate. These cases will just fizzle away in their system.
Right.
They'll
Rape,
never
they
ever
don't
check.
go and check the rape kits apparently at a lot of these police stations.
Right.
They just sit there unchecked or whatever.
I've heard that people who get their cars stolen, like the return rate on a car stolen is very, very low, especially the police doing it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because there's no incentive for them to do that.
Yeah, I have this long story we could get into if you guys are interested.
Well, I'd like to bring up one more thing. Another example of this, San Francisco, which is turned into a third world S-hole. It's basically the streets are literally a cesspool. So,
Yeah, they're pooping in the streets apparently.
Right.
Well, I hear that all the time. I don't know if it's just a meme.
I mean, people leave their doors unlocked and the tailgate open because people were breaking in, smashing their windows.
So
Even
they
though
leave it open to show nothing's in there?
so they don't break their windows.
Yep. So, so anyways, for example, all this crime's happening in at San Francisco, right? And stores are closing down. Whole Foods closed down. This big popular mall closes down. You got there's an app that you can get for where's all the poop, and basically the streets are just covered. It's
so
heat map.
gross.
It's
So they
just
really
covered.
are pooping in the streets.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was possibly just a meme, but
No.
why would it become a meme?
It's really happening.
Why?
And why? Because
Homeless people?
because of the welfare system. It's attractive. So San Francisco, if you're going to be a useless crackhead, a junkie, a heroin addict, go to San Francisco, go to Venice Beach. So you get fed. You get $600 a month just because you're there, and then you get all this other kind of money. There's actually an interview with some of these scumbags that are just low level parasites that are you're doing the drugs, working the system, and they earn their dope. They just get a free dopamine hit from Health and Human Services, so they just poop right on the street.
Ew.
And so anyways, while all this is going on, there's constant breaking and enterings. There's constant what do they call them? Smash and grabs,
And just like stealing from stores.
Right, yeah, that's what
very
the smash and grab
casually
is,
because
yeah.
they can't stop.
Yeah,
anything.
and they're just stealing and and you get prosecuted in like New York City, DC, San Francisco, LA if you try to defend yourself because you must retreat.
Oh.
Like if you fight back against someone who's like a multiple offense, kind of like attacker or mugger. In these cities, you get charged. Like the guy in the subway who subdued the violent homeless man. He's getting charged. So Elon Musk, when he gets the building, gets Twitter, he has a sign put up. A new sign put up on his building. That
it's in San Francisco.
In San Francisco, and And the
X.
X. They put an X sign instead of Twitter or something. And the code enforcement came after him and wrote him all kinds of fines.
It was pretty
and
big and
tickets,
obnoxious, I gotta say.
because he put this sign up.
That just said X.
Yeah, and it, like right there is just an example. But if it was Google that did that, they wouldn't care.
Probably not. Yeah.
You know, or if it was Facebook, because
I mean, the same thing happens even on smaller levels, like in Keene, New Hampshire.
Yep, absolutely.
There are all kinds of signs out that say something like, "Oh, come to this college building because we're doing arts and craft day" or whatever. And I've never heard of anybody getting those taken down by code enforcement, but the Mighty Moose Mart, who is run by libertarians, had this sign that's just like it stays in one place, but it's like a flag, and it's like a long skinny flag, and it said open, and they made them get rid of it because it's technically, they say it was technically a sign that was in motion because of the wind blowing a little flag.
I know
it's like
sign
the wind
laws are so ridiculous.
Yeah, the signs, any sign can blow in the wind and move, but
They're
they don't
picking
all
and
get,
choosing
yeah.
who can have these freedoms.
Yep.
right,
You know?
and it's like a perfect example is the case against my wife. Like, for example, they are, literally a friend of mine says that they have probably burned about $25,000 worth of tax resources so far trying to prosecute my wife.
Whoa.
You know, so you got all these parasite
Insane.
prosecutors that work for this, the prosecutor's office. You get that entire office. You send them the paperwork. They got to read the paperwork. They answer it. These guys, they're getting paid, pretty decent salaries. And the salary is actually the cheap part. The benefits that these guys get and the pension funds that they're getting funding, and their health care and their annuities. And you start and then the infrastructure, and they all get state cell phones. Some of these guys are driving, state, cars that are owned by the state. So the state's paying for the fuel.
Oh, yeah.
For the police and whatnot, and investigators and all this stuff, and then what a judge costs to have on a bench, and then you got to have all the security guards, and you got to have, and also to make sure to enforce all this action, you have to have a standing army of sheriffs and state police and all these cops and bailiffs and all this stuff. So these courtroom, and if you look at a courtroom, I mean, it is the most expensive building you could possibly build.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
They always make them so fancy.
Right. Government buildings are the most expensive buildings you could build. They're built
yeah.
with all this fine polished granite and marble. I don't know if anybody's ever worked on granite before or polished granite. I did a little bit as a teenager. And, it takes, hundreds of hours. There's probably that courtroom in
Concord?
in Concord?
Federal one.
The
Have you
federal
ever been there?
courthouse.
Because that's like all of polished
Oh, yeah.
granite.
Well,
I
And
think.
stainless steel everywhere.
Stainless steel,
Crazy.
and then isn't that granite? It's not marble, right? The stone
Yeah,
in there. It's
yep.
like the entire thing is made of granite,
Right,
And
so-
it's polished.
So it'll cost you like $15-20 to get like a granite countertop in your kitchen, right? And you're buying it from a private contractor.
So imagine a
That's just a
4-story
slab.
building
Right.
that is huge.
So a huge 4-story building.
With a statue.
So if it costs you $10,000 to get granite countertops in your kitchen, and the government buys the same exact granite countertops from its special approved, granite distributor, it's going to cost $150,000 or $300,000 because that's the way the government works. And then you got to maintain a prison to have all this stuff and the staff. So the amount of money that is costing the taxpayers, for example, just to prosecute my wife over a frivolous, BS charge, is absolutely ridiculous. And if anybody's upset about that, they should definitely send a letter to the Merrimack County elected DA. I forget his name, but you can look it up. And let them know about it. Especially with when it comes to this malicious prosecution that they're doing a lot. And so I've been working on an affidavit to expose this malicious prosecution. I'm going to ask for the Judicial Review Committee here in New Hampshire to investigate the Merrimack County prosecutor, investigate Superior Court, investigate Circuit Court, investigate Concord Concord Prosecutor's Office and the Concord Police Department. And I started going through this list of all these people. And so you got, the new Field 8, all these people who have been wrongly prosecuted by the state of New Hampshire, its actors, employees, officers, and agents. And, all these cities, towns, municipalities.
I mean, look, they lied about my case already. So I filed a complaint against Don Bulldog for assault. And they saw it.
They haven't gotten back to you, have they?
No, the chief said He didn't see anything.
No, yeah, they did lie about that. Sorry for breaking that. You can finish that sentence, but I am asking if they ever got back to you for your next court date.
No, not yet.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Whoa.
So anyways, yeah, what they'll do is they'll send you a letter to an address that you're probably not going to get it at, and then they're going to put a default warrant out for you for not showing up. Because that's generally how they work.
I was there. He told the lady on the phone, like, he doesn't have an address.
Yep.
And she was like, well, you're just going to have to keep calling back. So if they do
I have
that,
been.
that would be crazy.
Yeah, like, and you know, they have a duty to serve you. You don't have a duty to serve them because they are supposed to be public servants. But the problem is you know, they're certainly not acting like it. So, anyways, getting back to what I was saying with his double standard and everything and malicious prosecution. Joa, like with your case where they've lied, you need to put it in an affidavit, and you need to send it to whatever legislative committee this is, and whoever your favorite state representative is. And you need to command them to do something about it in this affidavit.
Well, yeah, the chief of police lied and the DOJ lied about Don Bolduc, how I said he elbowed me, and they said, no, he didn't. You know, we didn't see anything.
And there's video of this, right?
Oh, my God.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, so there's video of this. So basically, by you stating in an affidavit your facts, and then you give these guys 7 days to rebut the affidavit or it stands as truth, and the parasite class does not rebut affidavits. You know, we've never seen an affidavit rebutted in any of these affidavit processes that we've been working on. And so then your affidavit stands as the truth. And then you go forward with the legislature because we know the judiciary is corrupt. We know the executive branch is corrupt. We know the legislature on the federal level is corrupt. We know the legislature in just about every single state is corrupt, mostly because of the fact that they all have pension funds. But here in New Hampshire, we have essentially a volunteer citizen legislature.
Yep.
We got 400 state representatives. We have a population of 1.3 million people. And the state legislatures get a stipend of $100 a year, so they're not getting a pension
They're
fund.
not incentivized to be a legislator, other than to do good.
Right. Well, I mean, you do have bad people.
Supposedly.
Well, you do have we have some radical left wing nut jobs in there that are cool with like mutilating children and
stealing
all
freedoms,
that stuff and
whatever.
stealing freedoms and they want to try to take our rights away.
Yeah, Muse and some other ones that are really bad Democrats are working on this thing where it'll be harder to get a gun because I guess right now New Hampshire doesn't do like a certain optional, I think, part of background checks for people getting guns.
Yep.
And Muse and all those Democrats and also Roy, who's a Republican, are working on making it to where New Hampshire complies with that, the background check. And then
and I'm sure there's federal incentive money for that.
Well, the feds are the ones that make it. It's like, I guess it's not optional to the feds, but New Hampshire just isn't doing it right now.
The question at large is have you ever been admitted for psychological treatment or something like that?
And that's another thing. They want to make it to where crazy people now. Well,
but that's a
that,
violation of your Fifth
really
Amendment
is.
rights and Fourth Amendment rights. This is like HIPAA
Roy
laws
said it's
would
okay.
say.
Roy said it's okay because if they prove that they're better now, then they can get their rights back.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
it's such a lie.
You have a right to bear arms. The New Hampshire Constitution is pretty good on your right to bear arms. But luckily, we have a citizen legislature here that is getting better and better and better because of things like the Free State Project. But going back to what I was saying before I digressed, is I was going through this list of, because I'm putting together essentially an affidavit that is explaining, and part of the affidavit explains abuse of power basically done by the state of New Hampshire, its agents, employees, and officers, with respect to people who are affiliated with the Free State Project, Health Freedom New Hampshire, We Are the People in New Hampshire, all these like anti-mandate, vaccine,
like all this
vaccine
stuff
education.
your wife had bumper stickers on the back of her car
yes.
on the day in question.
and so I go through this list and I'm like, so we got the Newfield 8, the people that were ticketed, and Frank Footloose was, Staples.
Holding signs?
For basically, peacefully protesting in front of the neighbors, in front of
the governor's house.
The governor's house, because the governor's just a puppet for the Social Security Administration Title 4D money, for example, Title 4 A, B, C, D, and E money, which is this incentive fund where money comes out of the Social Security Administration account and goes directly into judicial pension fund, goes into all kinds of other coffers, goes into DCYF, goes into family court, goes into local municipalities,
It's a revenue protection scheme.
Well, it's maybe that you could sort of word it like that.
For pensions.
And so anyways, then you have, there's the Newfields 8. So like my friend Bill Domenico, I talked with him tonight a little bit on the phone, and we were talking about his case, and I'm like, hey man, can I get an affidavit from you saying how you've been targeted for being basically affiliated with the Free State Project. So I'm reaching out to a whole bunch of people as I'm building this case, against the state, because they have been engaged in malicious prosecution again and again and again and again and again. And then not in one of these cases will they be able to provide an affidavit where somebody swore under oath that they've had a right violated, that they've been injured, that property's been damaged,
right,
that copyright was violated, or a contract was violated, or any of these things. And then you have the Newfields 9, which were the people who were protesting the governor's council back when Sununu was trying to get,
actually, a lot of them didn't do anything.
Right. Well, actually, none of them did anything at all. Like Teresa Ganell.
They just started arresting people.
Right.
Yeah.
She said amen.
I mean, like, there was one lady that they arrested, an old lady that got her stuff dropped because they didn't even mean to arrest her.
And
Like,
they charged someone that
grabbed
wasn't
her
even
up.
there.
And so
Wait,
when you
what?
when
Yeah.
you right, yeah. So
I didn't know that part, or at least I forgot if I heard about that.
sure. Well, even just like with January 6th, they're charging people who weren't even there.
Yeah.
Like Owen Schroeder, he's like a InfoWars, reporter columnist. He just did like 60 days in the can over, his participation in January 6th as a radio commentator. He was not even anywhere near there. And so then you got the Newfields 9. You got was it Rochelle Kelly, Tyler Workman, Pamela?
Play Free or Die.
Play Free or Die.
Yeah, Play Free or Die. They were at the. They were all found not guilty, and they're actually all working on filing lawsuits against the state. The
They should, because what was really sad about that day? Whenever I saw them like celebrating after that Rochelle won in court, it was like, oh, she only had to go through like a year and a half of mental anguish.
Yeah,
it's
super stressful.
Mm-hmm. She was crying, like hugging her husband and like crying, like happy tears and stuff. But
and like it's super stressful because like. The crime, she probably, if she got convicted, probably wouldn't have got any time, right? She probably would have, had to pay a fine maybe, or they would have like said, oh, you don't have to pay a fine, and you're not going to jail, but now you have this criminal record. And then, and then the next time, the Concord police decide to pick on her because she's another one.
And they did. They did. They did though. They did after
they
that.
kept like pulling her over and stuff.
Well, so Ware PD really screwed with her. So she was from Ware, New Hampshire, and Ware police is a horrible reputation.
I've heard that, yeah.
So the Ware police has been sued multiple times over all kinds of stuff. So Carla Garrick won a lawsuit against them
that's true.
for because they charged her with wiretapping. William Kostrick won a lawsuit against them. They charged him with wiretapping. There was some guy who had the wrong species of salad in his pocket, and this cop, Sergeant Kelly, goes to do a drug deal with him. That has cost the town of Ware multiple millions of dollars now.
Whoa.
That particular people of Ware are so upset about this, but we'll continue this on the other side.
More coming up about the karmic consequences of being a terrible government person. It's 603-283-6160 is the number to call. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join today.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths says hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza with the ongoing Israel assault. On Thursday, Griffiths told reporters that a humanitarian ceasefire is needed immediately or thousands of people will die of hunger. Jody Jacobs reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
Martin Griffiths says that the UN does not have a humanitarian operation in southern Gaza that can be called by that name anymore.
Our humanitarian program is no longer a functioning one. It is one of response to opportunity.
He said that the humanitarian plan to protect civilians in Gaza is in tatters and no place is safe. In a joint statement by 27 aid organizations, including UN agencies, they call for an immediate stop to the fighting, stressing that conditions in Gaza are amongst the worst they have witnessed. The UN Security Council will on Friday vote on a draft resolution which calls for an immediate ceasefire. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his allies are expected to spend Friday trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill was meant to resurrect the government's flagship immigration policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it's angered many people on the right of his party. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Some British lawmakers are calling this the most dangerous moment yet for Rishi Sunak's prime ministership. This new legislation was meant to shield the government from legal challenges by British and international courts by declaring Rwanda a safe country to send asylum seekers to. But Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick resigned, saying he felt it didn't go far enough. His supporters say the bill still leaves room for those facing deportation to initiate a legal challenge, meaning likely more legal headaches to come. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said if the bill had gone any further disregarding human rights legislation, then Rwanda would have pulled out of the deal. A first parliamentary vote is due to be held next week. Stuart Smith, London.
The man who killed 3 people at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas has been named as a 67-year-old college professor. Investigators are looking into a possible motive, but reports suggest he'd applied for a job at the university and had been turned down. The gunman died in a shootout with police. The university police chief Adam Garci briefed reporters on what happened.
2 of our detectives responded to the scene and immediately engaged the suspect in a shootout. The suspect was struck and is deceased at this time. The campus was almost immediately closed, and out of an abundance of caution, all Nevada System of Higher Education institutions in southern Nevada were as well closed. UNLV will remain closed for the remainder of today, tomorrow, and Friday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Talk Live, it's talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call if you want to get in on the conversation with us. That's 603-283-6160, and with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And I wanted to tell you that this hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with 1 Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by the treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol. In multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. And thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn more about Dash. Dash.org. And before we get it back into the conversations we were having, I did forget that we had a caller on the line. So, oh man, he dropped off. Sorry, Major. I didn't mean to leave you hanging. So if you wanted to get in on the conversation, please call back. But for now, I'm going to go to Rob from Vermont. Rob, what's on your mind?
Hey, so New Hampshire has there's a new transparency update when it involves the police.
Yeah.
The New Hampshire Supreme Court ruled 4-1 in a decision to, for police files to be, requested by the public. That's awesome.
You can now do a 501, what's it called? 91A request on police disciplinary files. Like, that should have always been the case, but as of, I think, November 29th, that got ruled on in the Supreme Court.
They probably really didn't want that to happen.
And I keep forgetting I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go and I'm going to request, like, all of them from a certain date.
Yeah.
In Keene.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go request them from Concord PD. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do, my public records request is all the people that I have on my list that have been wrongfully, prosecuted and charged by Concord PD. So the police officers involve all of them. That's a really great idea. Thanks for reminding me of that, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Rob did actually send me a link about that last week or something, or a few days ago.
Me too. That's where I heard about it, and I posted on Twitter, and then I kind of just forgot because I wanted to bring it up on the air. So thank you, Rob. Anything else?
Yep. Well, no, I was just going to say that, if you've ever, had any problems with the police or know of a bad police officer in New Hampshire, do a FOIA request on them.
Yeah, and go public about it too.
They share it with the public. These people need to be called out.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Rob. And it's not a FOIA request in New Hampshire. It's called a 91A. And in fact, you don't even need to use RSA 91A. All you got to do is state the constitutional article for the Constitution for New Hampshire State has an article that says right to know. So we don't even need to write 91, RSA 91A. You just say under the Constitution for the
right
New Hampshire State, article whatever, right to know. I demand to know. If there's been any disciplinary action, if there's been any complaints, have any affidavits been signed, has been brought against officer so and so, and include the badge number, and then just be nice and clear about it.
Well, thank you so much, Rob, for the call. That's definitely important, and I did want to bring it up on the air, so I'm glad that he called in about that. I told Ian about it like right away. And he was like, wow, somebody should go to Keene and request
that's a good idea.
All of them from a certain date. I'll go do it.
I would do all current officers and, I don't know, maybe the last 10 officers. Because they leave the department and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you might want to get a few that have left.
Yeah, I was going to say, they'll probably be able to give me some that have left. It'll probably take a long time. Ian went and requested maybe October of 2020 about every arrest that had been made concerning weed since it got decriminalized, and he didn't get it until February of 2021.
Wow.
Yep.
They knew it was him, and they just put it on the back burner. I guarantee you it.
Probably. Well, I'm totally gonna go do that. 603-283-6160. I'm sorry about that, Major Payne. If you didn't hear me, you can call back. I saw he was on the phone, and then I covered up the screen with my other window, and I forgot that he was on the phone. So sorry about that.
I tell you what, the disciplinary action, it just says that the chief or whatever, their superior, took good action. But the reality is, if a town doesn't have any, it makes you wonder they could be really good cops, or say the superior, the chief or whatever, is actually corrupt too. So that's why they're not allowing the complaints to go through, or they're not disciplined and stuff like that.
So you think that it's possible that there will be none in a town?
If that's happening, then probably the superior, the chief, whatever, is
No,
in on it.
Yeah.
Or they're not as aggressive. They actually could be good.
That would be surprising if there was any that had 0. But moving on, we opened up the show tonight talking about this FBI agent who got carjacked near Capitol Hill. It's just kind of like a funny story in my opinion, but there's a lot to unpack here. It says, an off-duty FBI agent was carjacked on Wednesday afternoon near Capitol Hill, authorities said, adding to the sharp increase of similar incidents in D.C. this year. At about 3:45 p.m., 2 armed people took the vehicle belonging to the agency, said Washington, D.C. police and the FBI's Washington field office. The agent was not harmed in the incident. The vehicle was recovered by police just after 4 p.m. on Wednesday near the Lincoln Park area of D.C. So in 25 minutes it was found.
Huh.
But
they really
funny.
can't go far, so I don't know why people even try to steal cars now.
It's crazy that they would even be armed and go and try to steal a FBI
I can tell you exactly
vehicle.
why that culture of people, those young kids, just like teenagers stealing cars. I just saw.
Maybe they didn't know it was FBI because.
Yeah, they don't. But the thing is because it's becoming so prolific, and DC is covered in these FBI parasite kind of guys, anyways. And actually, I believe there was a mayor or a city councilor that was carjacked in somewhere in San Francisco. Which is just poetic justice as far as I'm concerned. But the reason that these kids are stealing cars, and there was a you guys familiar with like what a Hellcat is?
Yeah.
What is it?
So a Hellcat is a Dodge Charger car, like the police
souped
cars.
up.
Oh.
Souped up.
So they come out of the factory with like these 6.4 liter Hemis. They're like 750 horse with a blower or a supercharger out of the factory. You can take these cars, you can chip them, just put a chip in it. Don't change anything else. And they're like almost 900 horsepower. You can put a $4,000 or $5,000 into these cars and some elbow grease, and they're 1,400 horsepower. They weigh like 4,200 pounds. They're
super fast.
Is that a lot? Is 42 a lot for a car?
It's light.
Oh.
So you're
they're
like
fast.
if you're like 1,500 horsepower and 4,200 pounds, you are insanely fast. So these cars are doing 150
And they give
miles an
these
hour.
to cops like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Cop
No,
cars.
cops don't.
No.
Actually, like the Hellcat is known to outrun
cars.
cops.
Cops, yeah.
And helicopters.
So actually, if you want to buy one of these cars right now, they're super cheap because the repossession auctions are full of them. Like actually, right now, like a 2003 Toyota Camry or a 2007 Toyota Camry at auction is worth more money than like a 2012 Hellcat that's like 1,000 horsepower. But anyways, these cars are like you can jack them up. They are the modern day muscle car. They handle really good. I mean, they don't handle like a Corvette or like a Ferrari. You're not doing 250 miles an hour with them, but they do 150, and these guys outrun the cops. I just saw a clip of a kid was like 13 years old somewhere in California, jacked one of these Hellcat cars, and he's doing 150 miles an hour down the freeway. And this kid is like
it's nothing.
Yeah, and he's doing it like I was so impressed at his driving. I was like, wow. But
And he was 13?
That's what they were saying.
I mean, these things are easy to drive.
Well,
they're
easy
made to drive.
They're easy
So
to drive.
scary.
They have stabilization control. They actually like the steering really tightens up when you go fast, so they don't oversteer quite as easy. And his kids are stealing them anyways. And they're just the kid's like really like super lucky, super ballsy, and not that wise. He's a young man. So anyways, they're robbing these cars. Why is that culture of people robbing these cars? Because the way that the laws are being enforced aren't against people committing actual crimes. The only statutory rules that are being enforced are crimes against the state.
Paperwork crimes?
Crimes against the state.
Yep.
Where the state of New Hampshire, which is a bankrupt municipal corporation that is pretending to be New Hampshire state, if you read the very first thing in the Constitution, it says Bill of Rights, Constitution for New Hampshire state. So anyways, they
So you're saying those are two different things?
yes. So the state of New Hampshire is a corporation.
Cops want to pull people over in certain ways because it gives them a notch on their belt and they get promoted.
Oh, yes,
So
yes, but
they want to do those things, but not because they care about the community. They care about their pension. They care about getting promoted.
But here's what happened. When you grow up in a culture where you idolize people who commit crime because you're a little boy.
And you play GTA or whatever.
Yeah, that too, right?
I'm serious about it. I know some people think
and
that's...
let's be clear here. GTA, I had to think about that, but that's Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
So Grand Theft Auto is a game where you can go rape a girl.
Yeah.
You can go to a hooker and exchange dollars with her,
or don't pay her, and that's rape.
You can shoot the hooker when you're done. You can run her over with the car that you just stole. You can kill the cop. You can do all this stuff. So when you have single moms that are on welfare, that are got multiple baby daddies, because that's what happened. That's what the culture's turning into in these inner cities, and then so these kids are being pacified with internet devices. And they're gaming, and the state is providing the internet device. The state of California, for example, provides computers for kids. So these kids use these computers, and they can basically for not a lot of money, they can modify these computers into these like driving simulator things. And actually, that was one thing a kid had told me, is that he had first drove a car at like 16 years old. This was like 6 or 7 years ago, and he was like, "Oh, the driving is when he went to driver's ed, the guy was like, wow, you did this so well." He goes, well, I've been playing Grand Theft Auto with the driving simulator, for like 10 years. So like the kid understood about just, how to drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the kid learned how to drive essentially from the computer. So so just like you said, and they idolize this culture of like, going
music.
to jail,
Yeah.
rap music, graping hoes, doing drugs.
Now, Grand Theft Auto has these mods where you can either pretend to be a cop and like pull people over because you actually get them on infractions.
Oh,
and then
that'll get the authoritarian dopamine hit going.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Yeah, exactly. A lot of the kids that do play that role are like cops' kids too. And then the other side of things, like going to do your drug deal or going to play for pink slips, like and race your cars. If you get caught doing those things and the cops catch you, there's consequences in the game as well.
Right.
It's really wild how they set it all up, but
literally
it's
teaching people how to do crime.
So, well, what they're doing,
it's a modification to the game, and you can do drug deals, and you make profits. That's how you earn money. But like, there's actual other people playing the cops, watching you, and they'll do patrols and like stuff
so it's
like that.
you versus the cops.
Yeah, like real scenarios.
So what you're doing is you're fanning the culture war. So now you're creating this authoritarian, dopamine hit. So what, like I talk about in my Investing in Our Posterity, lecture series, is whatever children get for a dopamine hit as their brains are developing, young brains are developing, and actually, this is super, super true up until 6 years old. It's very it's true, but even up for men up until 26 years old, whatever your brain's being programmed because it's still developing. Women's brains, they say, stop developing about 21 years old. So with when you bring that up, now you got this authoritarian class of kids that are being programmed to be this authoritarian. They want to be the cop. They want to be the white knight. They want to be the hero. And maybe a lot of them don't even want to be authoritarian, but they start getting the dopamine hit through the video game. So what they're doing is they're further promoting next generational warfare through like these things like Grand Theft Auto. So getting back to what I was saying about the inner city kids who are stealing the cars, like jacking these cars on his FBI agent. And of course, an FBI agent is going to get jacked in DC because there's FBI agents everywhere.
Yeah, they probably weren't.
And cars are getting jacked left and right in DC.
It probably wasn't they weren't targeting the FBI agent. In fact, he probably drives an undercover car.
Of course,
so,
right? Yeah, I doubt they were doing
says
that.
FBI.
One last thing about GTA, they're coming out with GTA 6, and that's not coming out for another 2 years or something like that.
Oh wow, why do I keep hearing about it?
I don't know. Maybe next year. I don't even know. But it's supposedly woke. It's gonna be woke.
I heard
And
that.
a
Like
lot
they're
of
like, oh,
outcry
you can
about
play
it.
as a girl now. I was shocked that you couldn't.
Well, that's how the
already play
story
as a girl.
begins. But people are saying it's potentially a trans woman virtual character. How all this works, I have no idea.
So, anyways, a little story here. I'm pretty close to a guy who's my age. His father went to jail when he was 8 years old. His father got out of jail when he was 12. His parents got divorced when a couple years after dad got out of jail. And the dad was kind of like, the dad was like, you know, when the kid was like 13, the dad didn't even like smoke weed, but like he'd buy his kid weed. He'd let his kid smoke weed. He'd buy his kid cigarettes. So the dad would brag about stealing cars. So the dad grew up in Western Mass, where I grew up, and he had cousins that lived in New York City in the 70s. So in the 70s, and I think the guy was born in like 56 or 57.
This is your friend's dad.
Yes, this is my friend's dad. A guy I literally known since kindergarten, and he like stacked hay with us on the farm, and we did martial arts together, you know, and he was actually a black belt in multiple martial arts. And in fact, I probably would have gotten a serious beating when I got jumped one day, except for he kind of came out of nowhere and started being Chuck Norris and stuff when we were teenagers. Well. And, you know, I only had one black eye and, you know, a couple of loose teeth and a bloody lip instead of, you know, a bunch of broken bones. Oh anyways, well, these dudes we were like, you know, 14 and these guys were like 19 and 20 and they were just pounding the crap out of us. But anyways,
oh my God.
Or me, they were pounding the crap out of me.
Oh, his dad showed up.
No.
Oh, he showed up.
No, this guy showed up who's the same age as me. He's like 3 weeks younger than me.
Whoa.
Anyways, so I can remember his dad like bragging about when we were kids stealing cars
in New York City. And like, so I was kind of a car guy growing up. I was really into trucks and like, you know, doing that stuff. And so he actually taught me how to open cars up, this guy. He taught me how to like use a Slim Jim and how to like, you know, basically breach cars. And like hotwire them or something?
Actually,
break into them.
Yes, he taught me how to hotwire cars. Absolutely. He taught me a lot about auto mechanics. Actually, this guy like kind of like taught me how to weld a little bit. He was a super skilled guy. You know, he knew a lot of things, but he grew up with some bad influence in his life, and he never got in trouble. Actually, he didn't even go to jail for stealing cars. I don't even know what he went to jail for. Something stupid he did. It was actually a white collar crime he went to jail for, like
fraud or
something. It kind of proves what you've been saying. Like, they don't care about real crimes. They'll get you for some kind of paperwork infraction.
So like his kid
not paying taxes.
We're like 16 years old, and his kid is all of a sudden we're like 16. I'm driving down the road somewhere, and I see this guy like run out in front of me, waving his arms, and I stop, and it's this guy. This is my friend, and he's like, I'm gonna jump in your truck, and he jumps in the back of my pickup truck. I was driving a pickup truck, and he's like all dressed in black, and he's got like a hoodie on, and it wasn't even, it was like summer. And I'm like, what the heck? So he jumps in my truck, and like all of a sudden, you know, cops go like blowing by me. You know, like, you know, I'm kind of just like, you know, on the side of the road because I've seen this, and the cops go by me. So I just drive to my house, and he gets, I'm like, what's up, dude? He's like, the cops looking for you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what are you doing? And in his backpack, he's got like 3 or 4 radios. He's got like a CB radio.
Did he stole out of cars?
He was stealing them out of cars.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are you going to do with these things? He was like, oh, I'm going to sell them. I'm like, dude, they're not worth, like, you could have just made more money working at Walmart stacking shelves than what, like, he's stealing like these garbage radios. And they're not even, they weren't like anything that was like valuable. And but the thing is,
how old was he?
He was, I was 17, so he must have been 17. And we were both still in high school. Like, we were going to high school together, and he's like doing this stuff. And I'm like,
well, factory radios are actually still worth money.
I mean, you could go buy this radio for like $42, right, at Walmart.
That's $42.
Like literally
it took him like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but
you are not going to get $20. You're not going to get. You could maybe get like 5%.
Why would somebody buy it for $40 from this 17-year-old instead of buying it for $40 from the store?
So you could go buy a radio for $1,000, and if you steal that one, you could probably sell it for a couple hundred. I don't know, but and he's got like, and he's like, and the stuff he stole. Wasn't like stealing change out of the cars. He wasn't like
Cadillac converters.
Yeah.
Nah,
I don't know. I just always hear that. So many people steal and sell.
So back then, like in the 90s, Cadillac converters weren't worth like $800 like they are today.
Right.
Like the
platinum
catalytic
prices.
converter on your car out there would probably bring $800.
Hmm.
Actually, remember that Crown Vic that Ian used to drive?
Oh, well, I
or
guess,
nobody?
Yeah.
Like those catalytic converters are worth like $1,200 because they have the Crown Vics from the early 2000s. Because they got big motors and they got dual catalytic converters because they're like kind of set up as cruisers and stuff and they're high performance. But anyways, because they got platinum in or palladium or something.
Platinum.
Yeah. Anyways, so like I didn't realize this till I started studying about like brain development. So like he would get so much enjoyment of seeing his father like gloat and glow, and this guy's father would glow like he would have this like same like energy that I have talking
Euphoria.
about my kids, like being 2 years old and feeding the cows and like turning the water on and off to fill up the buckets, like stuff I'm proud of. And like this guy like emulated like pride and this like and just joy over talking about his accomplishments of stealing cars, and he was bragging, and he had kind of a conscience because he was helping these city kids steal cars because this guy grew up in a junkyard, but his like parents were the father grew up in a junkyard and his parents were divorced, so he would have to go like to the city for the summer all the time to hang out with his mom. But he basically lived on his dad's junkyard when he was growing up in upstate New York. So he understood how to like open up a car because he worked on cars. So he would help these city kids steal cars. And then he helps these guys stealing cars, and then like steal a car that's got like a baby seat in it, and they're like, dude, you got to go bring this car back. This belongs to a mom. You can't do this. He was one of those guys. He was like, sort of had a conscience about him. But what was interesting, so this guy I'm talking about, my friend, really he got so high off stealing cars. Like I'm not stealing cars, stealing stuff out of cars. He didn't actually steal cars. He actually never really drove a car, but and then he got in with like so what started happening is he started selling like he was stealing radios out of cars is what he was doing, and just like CB. I remember
probably make more money jacking the tires. Because it's easy to flip tires. It's not easy to flip radios.
But also, like, he lives in, like, Western Massachusetts, and he's 17 years old. Like, was he going to have any success selling something like tires? Like, wouldn't somebody be like, go give this back to old man Jenkins?
He probably couldn't take a tire off a car. He wasn't that competent. But he could remove a radio, and he wouldn't even do it right. So he ended up started stealing, like, two-way radios and, like, CB radios out of, like, this construction equipment and, like, this trucking company.
It's pretty smart.
And so he starts hooking up with these guys in Springfield, Mass that are trading him drugs. Because that's the only way he could fence the stuff. So this dude got hooked on drugs. He like OD'd. He like had all kinds and literally like he was like 21 years old, and he's been a ward of the state ever since. So he's like living in a mental institution. He's like living in halfway houses. His life is just trashed. But that was because he emulated his dad bragging about committing these crimes, and he didn't have a dad during formative years. His dad went to jail, so he just wanted to be like his dad.
And then he's getting his dopamine hits, stealing worthless radios, and then doing drugs. So it makes sense. 603-283-6160. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths says hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza. On Thursday, Griffiths told reporters that a humanitarian ceasefire is needed immediately or thousands of people will die of hunger. Jody Jacobs reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
Martin Griffiths says that the UN does not have a humanitarian operation in southern Gaza that can be called by that name anymore.
Our humanitarian program is no longer a functioning one. It is one of response to opportunity.
He said that the humanitarian plan to protect civilians in Gaza is in tatters and no place is safe. In a joint statement by 27 aid organizations, including UN agencies, they call for an immediate stop to the fighting, stressing that conditions in Gaza are amongst the worst they have witnessed. The UN Security Council will on Friday vote on a draft resolution which calls for an immediate ceasefire. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his allies are expected to spend Friday trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill was meant to resurrect the government's flagship immigration policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it's angered many people on the right of his party. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Some British lawmakers are calling this the most dangerous moment yet for Rishi Sunak's prime ministership. This new legislation was meant to shield the government from legal challenges by British and international courts by declaring Rwanda a safe country to send asylum seekers to. But Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick resigned, saying he felt it didn't go far enough. His supporters say the bill still leaves room for those facing deportation to initiate a legal challenge, meaning likely more legal headaches to come. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said if the bill had gone any further disregarding human rights legislation, then Rwanda would have pulled out of the deal. A first parliamentary vote is due to be held next week. Stuart Smith, London.
The man who killed 3 people at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas has been named as a 67-year-old college professor. Investigators are looking into a possible motive, but reports suggest he'd applied for a job at the university and had been turned down. The gunman died in a shootout with police. The university police chief Adam Garci briefed reporters on what happened.
2 of our detectives responded to the scene and immediately engaged the suspect in a shootout. The suspect was struck and is deceased at this time. The campus was almost immediately closed, and out of an abundance of caution, all Nevada System of Higher Education institutions in southern Nevada were as well closed. UNLV will remain closed for the remainder of today, tomorrow, and Friday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today remembering Norman Lear, in many ways the creator of the modern American sitcom. He died in Los Angeles on Tuesday at the age of 101. He was determined to make American television more meaningful, and when he came across the British comedy Till Death Us Do Part, about social, political and race-based tensions within working-class families, he decided to create an American version of it. All in the Family was unlike anything the country had seen before. It dominated the ratings in the 70s and put Lear on the path to long-term success. 9 years ago, in an interview with PBS, he decried the modern state of the very medium that he had done so much to improve.
I think what's dangerous is 24 hours a day, 335 channels. Too much is too much.
Why is that dangerous?
Because people have other things to do. And if there was a better sense of responsibility in the various leadership positions in our country, things would be not as grotesquely overdone as they are now.
Meaning
And
what?
I think we've become much more a nation of consumers than citizens.
Norman Lear was a luminary of the left and won his 5th Emmy at the age of 97, the oldest recipient ever. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news, again, the UN's humanitarian chief says its operations in Gaza are nearly impossible with the ongoing Israel assaults. Thousands of people will die of hunger, he says, without a ceasefire. The UK's Prime Minister is trying to convince his own MPs to vote for a Rwanda bill to send asylum seekers to the Central African nation. And Las Vegas police have named the shooter of a gun attack at the University of Nevada as a college professor. Reports suggest he was turned down for a job there. There's more from us on Twitter at Feature Story. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
It was a big night for music's hottest acts, especially for Lord Chillingsworth. In a shocking upset, the young artist took home the spookiest Halloween sound effect album Grammy for Creepy Night in Halloween Manor. Music blogger Ty Vaughn is here. Ty, what a shocker.
Lord Chillingsworth's track, Man Being Boiled Alive While Chains Rattle in a Dungeon, was crazy spooky. It was everywhere this year. Haunted houses, Halloween stores, nighttime hayrides. Anywhere you look, people were getting the willies from this album.
But a lot of people thought Grammy darling Dr. Spookenstein was a shoo-in to win for his album Laboratory of Madness.
And that was a great album. Critics praised Spookenstein's stripped-down approach, rattling real bones together and dripping real blood onto a screaming lady.
The class act Spookenstein offered a gracious congratulations to Chillingsworth, saying, "I'm a fan of every bloody who was nominated, especially Chillingsworth. I have a skeleton ton of respect for him as an artist. I just saw him on the red carpet and congratulated him."
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And I wanted to tell you about ForkFest 2024. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual ForkFest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest is the fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. ForkFest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do is to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party. Will you guys be going?
Yeah, I haven't bought tickets for PorkFest. I haven't gotten a campsite yet. I tried pretty hard to get money to do the man camp. It's like expensive for me to do man camp. It's like a whole week of prep before I go. And it's a lot of stuff to bring up there. I got to make 2 trips back and forth. Bring up a whole nother trailer, and then. It isn't really something I can actually, like that blacksmithing and forging, I just can't do it with my kids. Mm-hmm. So, well, yeah, they're just, their frontal lobes aren't totally developed to their brains, so I can't have them, my 3-year-old or 2-year-old be, or they'll be 4 and 3. I can't have them, hanging on to forging iron, in a hot forge. It doesn't work. I actually, both my kids do blacksmith, but it's with cold iron, and they basically just take little pieces of metal, and I got a little set of tongs set up, and then they take a little hammer and they just bang it on the anvil.
So that's kind of a way to like learn before they can do it hot. That's cool.
Yeah, well, can't do it hot. It's just dangerous,
Mhm.
That's why my cutoff is 6 years old, because at 6 years old, most kids understand things are hot and things can burn.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is the only people who've really gotten injured doing man camp have been adults.
Oh,
not kids.
Yeah.
But hey, when we left off in the last segment, I was talking about how this kid I grew up with, who had all the same sort of upraising I had. Except for his father went to jail, and his parents got divorced and stuff. But my parents were divorced too. Actually, my dad went to jail for a little while.
Oh, but, when you were alive? When you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was 8 years old.
Oh.
He was in jail for 30 days. He was arrested. He was targeted by the FBI, actually.
Who watched you?
My grandmother, and we had a lot of friends. My stepmom was there.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, my dad went through a jury trial. He defended himself, no lawyer, and he won. And anyways, it's a long story, but so he won. He beat the charges. Brought a massive lawsuit against the federal government that was just totally dismissed because all the judges are corrupt.
Mhm.
So I learned that a long time ago. But anyways, the moral of the story is like I hear people talking about doing stupid things. Like these farm kids you grow up with are like, oh yeah, I used to get drunk and smoke a bunch of weed and go ride my dirt bike all over the place. And they're like, these guys are like 40 and 50 years old or 35 years old, and they're like, and they're bragging about this crap in front of their kids, and that's just one example, or just things like that. So it's like you really got to.
It's like you really want your kids to think you were cool, so you're bragging in front of them about something you can't do anymore, like the old days.
What they're doing is they're bragging to their buddies about the dumb things they did,
And they think that their kids won't be affected.
And the kids are there. They're not like
Mhm.
sitting there telling the kids like exactly
okay.
what the kids are kind of like listening, third party.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, my mom thinks that I don't remember so much stuff that she talked about in front of me.
And
I remember being 1 year old.
And so what happens is when you have these conversations of doing like really dumb stuff or breaking the law, I for example am a very much a law abiding individual.
Mhm.
Or man, I don't break the law. The law is don't steal, don't kill, don't lie, don't violate contracts. I don't do any of those things. All this statutory stuff is not law. It's private municipal code of these bankrupt corporation calling itself state of whatever. So anyways, the and this goes the other way too. Like one of the and I kind of interrupt people. When you're talking about doing drugs, like ripping lines of coke, for example. I heard a guy talking about
In front of his kids?
Yeah, his kids were like just right there.
What about your kids?
I didn't have kids. They weren't around. This was actually like at a truck pull.
For some reason, in my mind, it's like, if you're talking about something like 5 years ago, even, I'm like, oh, and where were your kids? Because in my mind, you always had them, but they're not 5 years old.
They were a twinkle in my eye. Anyways, so like this is like, I don't know, 15 years ago, I guess, is when I lived in Massachusetts. These guys are like talking about doing coke and like just like college. It was college. They were talking about like the college nonsense, the partying. And they're like, oh, those were the great days. I was, playing college ball and we would do coke because we couldn't smoke weed because if we smoked weed, we couldn't play college ball.
Yeah.
And like, and if you and if you did coke, you weren't hungover and all this stuff. And like, I don't even, this is just what these guys were talking about.
Yeah.
And they were, and I'm like, I didn't like say anything to them. I'm like, whatever. But like, I'm thinking now, like, man, I would have been like, dude, don't talk that about your front of your kid. And like now, like these guys on like Facebook, they're like kids are into coke.
Oh wow, that's surprising.
And like that's one example. And another thing that I want to throw out there is it's kind of a little polar opposite is when you have divorced parents. So if you have divorced parents and like so a lot of times you have single moms and understand. being a single mom is an impossible task.
Yeah, it seems like it's me. Like, I never thought much about it, but we were talking last week about a friend I know who, her and her boyfriend just kind of split, and I just go over there and hang out and hold the baby and talk to her.
Nice.
I can't even imagine, like, taking care of one baby by myself. She has multiple.
Right. So anyways, real quick, some statistics on being a single mom. So children raised by a single mom are like have all of this like horrible like statistical things happen to them. They're 20 more times more likely to go to jail. The women, the boys are 20 times more likely to go to jail. The girls are like several times more likely to commit suicide.
Whoa.
They're several times more likely to get pregnant as a teenager. They are several times, and the girls are like several times more likely to repeat the pattern of getting pregnant by multiple baby daddies. What is it, like something like 85% or 91% of the prison population are fatherless kids. There is the psychiatric, being in a mental institution is like a lot. So this is all fatherless, and then the statistics show that a children raised by a single father and a mother and a father turn out the same. The statistics. So when you're raised by a single mom as a child, it's really bad because mom has an impossible job. Now, the welfare industrial complex has been subsidizing single moms basically since, right after World War II, because, a whole bunch of, men went to war and didn't come home, and there was a whole bunch of single moms. And so the government's like, oh yeah, we got to give these moms money, take care of them. And when you subsidize something, you just create more of it. So like if you subsidize welfare, you're going to get to the point to where all of the cities that have the big welfare programs and are comfortable to live are going to be the streets will be not lined with gold, but poop. Because you got a bunch of junkies, because all the junkies are on welfare. All the homeless people doing drugs are on welfare. All the people that are overdosing have an EBT card. Just ask any first responder; they will tell you that. So the thing is so a lot of these single moms will like talk so much smack about the father, to talk horrible about him. And a lot of these single moms are not lying with what they're saying about the father, right? Yeah. Because there is just a whole bunch of deadbeat dads. It's because they've been demasculated. They have no, the state has sort of replaced the father. Single moms don't need, you don't see any malnourished. Well, they are technically malnourished if they're really fat, but you don't see any like really scrawny, skinny, starving to death, children being raised by single parents, because the single moms all get an EBT card and they can go buy their ho-hos and sugar and junk food and, Coca-Cola, basically infused, baby formula or whatever. And but the same thing with, you can totally wreck a kid's brain by crap talking, bad mouthing the parent, or for that effect, bad mouthing anyone that kid loves or worships. So a lot of these like young boys that are being raised by a single mom, by default, they are going to worship whatever they see from men out there. So if they're on internet devices and they're, playing Grand Theft Auto, they're going to, and they're seeing, what's going on, or TikTok, the algorithm is feeding them, a whole bunch of garbage. Garbage. Of whatever. And so you have a lot of kids essentially being, raised by the algorithm. The algorithm is feeding them, these kind of things, and it's sort of what they're turning into. But getting back to talking bad about about your ex, about the baby's father, for example, and even I've see dads that talk bad about the mother, and I'm like, dude, you cannot do that. Your kid, you just can't. And they're like, it's true. And they say the same thing to somebody's moms. They're talking bad about the dad, and it's true. Well, what it does is it demoralizes that kid. There's nothing more demoralizing than as a little boy, that your daddy is a piece of garbage, and then to hear it again and again and again. And a lot of times the mom isn't even saying it to the kid. This is a conversation the mom is having with someone else. And I said to a mom a couple years, oh man, she got so mad at me. She's single. She's got a 2-year-old little boy, or maybe it's a year and a half. And I'm like, hey, you've been talking crap about his dad.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time I've been here.
And even if it's true.
And she's like, well, it's true. And why are you? I'm not. And she just immediately thinks I'm attacking her.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually at a camping trip, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not attacking you, but like that kid is gonna not resent the father. He's gonna resent the you, and you're just being a messenger. Mm-hmm. Right, and she's just talking to one of her girlfriends or something, venting. Mm-hmm. If you want to vent, that's fine. You want to talk about how bad this guy is and how much he's ruined your life, and because the dude's a deadbeat dad. You know, he's a drug addict. He's doesn't pay any child support. He's like one of the and actually it's been like 4 years now. I guess the kid's like 6, and like the dad's like, oh, hey Johnny, I'm coming over on Friday and to get you, and like the kid's like waiting there for dad. He's so happy he's gonna see dad. Dad just doesn't show up because dad got paid on Thursday and dad went and did drugs all weekend, and like he's one of these guys that like
so
he goes back to work when he's not doing the drugs. Like I know the guy. I know the guy he works for occasionally, and so anyways, if you're getting divorced or if you're not with the mother, and like your friend there that you were telling me about, like both the mom and the dad need to understand they can't trash talk the kid's other parent because the kid will hate them. And so what does that do? That stimulates a part of the brain. Similar to I'm always talking about how the internet device stimulates the part of the brain that's stimulated by cocaine. Mm-hmm. Well, the part of the brain, so I don't know what part of the brain that like this like traumatizing stuff. There's a guy named Gabor Mate. I wish I knew how to spell his name off the top of my head. But anyways, if you want to internet search him, he really writes on this. There's all kinds of great YouTube videos of this guy doing lectures, Gabor Mate. And it smells
just like you think GABORMATE with a, I forget what it's called, French cafe / above it.
Yeah. So he's got like a little bit of an accent, and which I like listening to guys with accents because when they speak English and it's not like their first language, they're usually really clear about it, extra clear.
Oh.
Just in my opinion, he's a good speaker. In fact, that's like should be mandatory like study what Gabor Mate has to say if you're planning on being a dad, or if you are a parent, or if you're a grandparent.
Does he work on like brains or just it says trauma? It says he has a background in family practice and a special interest in childhood development, trauma, and potential lifelong impacts on physical and mental health, including autoimmune disease, cancer, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, addictions, and a wide range of other conditions.
Yeah, so this guy, what this guy has to talk, every word this guy says is quite literally gold. I'm putting together actually a packet. I've been working on a little bit because I have actually a lot of friends are going to have a baby really soon. So I'm sort of putting together like a special packet, and I'm going to build a slideshow just for them. And then what's cool about this slideshow is I could put it into my Anarchapulco presentation that I'm going to do this winter. But anyways, the stressing the children's brain about talking smack about their father or their mother or their grandmother or their like favorite like baseball player, and even I've been a little guilty of this with a particular kid that like really loves playing video games. I'm like, dude, video games are bad. They're messing your brain, and I'm just telling them all like truth. And this kid's like, he's not little. He was, this past summer. He was, I think he's like 13.
Yeah, and you think it's making him hate you because he loves video games?
Definitely annihilated him. Definitely. And and that made me aware that of this. So because he like worships this, but he's addicted to video games. He has
and
internet.
It makes sense. Like kids don't work totally logically. Like if you're making fun of or if you're talking smack about their dad in their brain, that might be like, well, I'm part my dad, so like I'm trash. You're saying I'm trash too.
Well, so you're right. So the average 12 or 13-year-old that like grew up in an Amish farmhouse, for example, is probably super logical. Or the 12 or 13-year-old that didn't grow up using an internet device his whole life, but like, a kid who is 13 years old, let's say, this past summer, has literally had an internet device in his hand, like his attention's been going there ever since and I'm new to kids since he was 5, and that's all he talked about was these stupid video games and all this crap. And so what happened is he doesn't have logic and reasoning development because his brain has been wired by the internet device. And then here I come along, it's like me talking to a 4-year-old, about, how crappy his dad is or how crappy his mother is. But what I'm talking to is somebody who's essentially got the, sort of the brain development of a 5 or 6-year-old, but he's 13 years old. And, he's more of a man than a boy at this point, physically. And he got really upset with me. Like, he was like, his mother was like, "Oh, you really upset him." And I'm like, "Really?" And I didn't, But anyways, so I basically took his idol and tore it down, and with a very convincing argument. And I wasn't like screaming at him. I was just like talking to him, and he really couldn't go anywhere when I was particularly talking to him. And I was, so I sort of had him like, like kind of captured, just because where he was, he just, we happened to be in the same room. And anyways, so, and I just, lecturing him, and he got really upset. So anyways, but he's his main, he's in really bad shape because he's just been allowed to game his whole life, and
it's probably
do
something
that
that like means so much more to him than you could have possibly known because he loves it so much because it's the only thing that I don't know he enjoys.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Exactly right. It was and it's
so sad.
So anyways, Gaber Mate gets into like he talks about attention deficit disorder, which is like a huge thing, and so what Gaber gets into about attention deficit disorder with the kids is like when mom and dad argue and there's like an infant, and so at a certain point a baby's like a pet rock. So I don't know how old your friend's baby is, but
born in early October.
So basically that baby's like a pet rock. It just sits there and it drools and it poops and it pees.
She smiles now.
And it smiles, but it's not, is she crawling?
No.
Right, so it's a pet rock. So they're no longer a pet rock once they're crawling, right? Because now they're moving around.
When you're saying they're a pet rock, are you saying that even like conversations around them don't actually affect them?
No. So
I think they do.
Physically they're like a pet rock. It's just kind of a saying.
Yeah, okay.
But so their brain's working, they're listening, and like if this mom and dad is not getting along, and this mom, let's say she's going to get in a physical, not physical, but like a screaming match with the dad.
Yeah.
And let's say that she's just on the phone, for example, and having a screaming match with the dad, on the other end of the phone, or they're doing it in person in front of the kid. Well, what happens is that stresses that baby.
I bet, yeah.
Because the only thing the baby knows, and the baby absorbs everything that comes from mom or dad.
It's probably really sensitive to emotions too at that time.
Oh, absolutely, because the brain is in like a big development stage. It's huge brain development, and you'll if you hang out with this friend often, like say you go hang out with her twice a week for the next 6 months, you are gonna like notice all these leaps. Like you just said, the baby's smiling.
Yeah.
Right. And was the baby smiling 3 or 4 weeks ago at you?
No.
For example. So you've been making these observations. You're gonna say, oh wow, the baby's talking so good.
Yeah.
The baby's walking. Oh, the baby's running. The baby's climbing. And you're gonna like observe this, and that's awesome that you go over there and invest some time in this baby and give it some love, because if dad's not in the picture or whatever's going on, if there's stress, like that's just like you're gonna be like Auntie Bonnie, and that baby's gonna love you forever, because of that. And so, but yeah, like the baby. So like, if Joe and I start having a screaming match in this room and you can't handle it, you can just leave.
Yeah.
Actually, this is your house, so you could just tell us to leave.
Yeah.
Or you could just leave. But a baby can't do that. So this fragments like the brain. This causes like a lot of trauma.
Yeah, they don't want to. Isn't that kind of like dissociation? Like that really fragments the brain because they start to feel that they don't want to be there, but they can't leave, so they disassociate from the situation. I didn't know that really babies can do that, but I've definitely heard of like child rape victims.
Yeah, same exact
Doing
thing. That Gabriel Mate, check him out. His information is gold.
603-283-6160. You can call in and talk about whatever is on your mind. Got any information about this subject we're talking about, you can bring it up, or if you want to change the subject, it's up to you because it's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Sources at the video streaming service Netflix reported today that they had sent local man Shane Fowler a personal message earlier just checking to see if everything was okay after the 31-year-old watched an entire season of the FX program Sons of Anarchy in a single viewing session.
Well, we happened to notice that Shane had been sitting in front of his laptop and had burned through all 13 episodes of the first season of Sons of Anarchy. So we thought maybe we could send him a note and just sort of make sure he was doing all right, or if he needed someone to talk to or something.
Netflix says the message, which Fowler received minutes after he finished viewing the season 1 finale of the motorcycle gang drama, was just a way for the company to see if there was anything they could do for their longtime subscriber.
I mean, we do this stuff all the time. Just last year, Mike Ralston from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, watched all 4 seasons of The Tudors after his wife left him. We were there for him. We just like to check in on our customers from time to time.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths says hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza with the ongoing Israel assault. On Thursday, Griffiths told reporters that a humanitarian ceasefire is needed immediately or thousands of people will die of hunger. Jody Jacobs reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
Martin Griffiths says that the UN does not have a humanitarian operation in southern Gaza that can be called by that name anymore.
Our humanitarian program is no longer a functioning one. It is one of response to opportunity.
He said that the humanitarian plan to protect civilians in Gaza is in tatters and no place is safe. In a joint statement by 27 aid organizations, including UN agencies, they call for an immediate stop to the fighting, stressing that conditions in Gaza are amongst the worst they have witnessed. The UN Security Council will on Friday vote on a draft resolution which calls for an immediate ceasefire. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his allies are expected to spend Friday trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill was meant to resurrect the government's flagship immigration policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it's angered many people on the right of his party. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Some British lawmakers are calling this the most dangerous moment yet for Rishi Sunak's prime ministership. This new legislation was meant to shield the government from legal challenges by British and international courts by declaring Rwanda a safe country to send asylum seekers to. But Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick resigned, saying he felt it didn't go far enough. His supporters say the bill still leaves room for those facing deportation to initiate a legal challenge, meaning likely more legal headaches to come. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said if the bill had gone any further disregarding human rights legislation, then Rwanda would have pulled out of the deal. A first parliamentary vote is due to be held next week. Stuart Smith, London.
The man who killed 3 people at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas has been named as a 67-year-old college professor. Investigators are looking into a possible motive, but reports suggest he'd applied for a job at the university and had been turned down. The gunman died in a shootout with police. The university police chief Adam Garci briefed reporters on what happened.
2 of our detectives responded to the scene and immediately engaged the suspect in a shootout. The suspect was struck and is deceased at this time. The campus was almost immediately closed, and out of an abundance of caution, all Nevada System of Higher Education institutions in Southern Nevada were as well closed. UNLV will remain closed for the remainder of today, tomorrow, and Friday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And I wanted to tell you about amps.freetalklive.com. Amps.freetalklive.com is a place you can go to amplify, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. Sorry, it took me a second to remember that. You can go there to support the show. And I would like to thank Crash Gordon, who's a gold level amplifier. That means he is at least giving $10 a month to support the show. So thank you so much, Crash Gordon, for being an amplifier. He is amplifying, marketing, promoting, and supporting the show. So thank you so much to Crash Gordon. And if you would like to become an amplifier too, you can go to amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. I'm going to go straight into the phone calls. Anonymous caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Going once, going twice.
Oh, are you there, caller? Yeah, no, I think no one's there. Okay, but hey, Jay, didn't you have something you would like to promote to the listeners?
Oh, yes. So this February in Acapulco, Mexico, I will be presenting at the 10th annual Anarchapulco. So go to anarchapulco.com to check it out. There is a whole list of speakers that's going to be there. It's been a very successful conference, has great reviews. There's a lot of good information. And I will be essentially presenting on investing in our posterity, how not to screw your children up. I'm going to be talking about like psychological issues. I'm going to actually be getting some of the gay board mate stuff into it. I am going to have suggestions for expecting parents. I'm also going to have suggestions for the people who don't have kids that aren't going to have kids. The women that are post 40 something, the men in their 50s who are just not looking to get with a girl because they don't want to get divorced and lose half their stuff. And that's, and then you have the dinks.
What kind of stuff do you tell? Dinks. That's a new word.
Dual income, no kids.
What kind of stuff do you have to tell people who can't have kids or won't have kids?
To invest in somebody else's kids, to invest in a family. So a lot of these dinks, for example, have a lot of money. I mean, I haven't saved any money since my kids have been born, but man, I am very thankful I saved before my kids were born. But I also,
well, they don't sound like they're saving. Sorry, for the most part, those people that come on the internet and brag about being dinks, we're dinks. We can buy $8 lattes every day. That's just dumb. Anyway, even if you're whoever you are,
that's city urban liberal type people.
Yeah,
doing that kind of stuff.
I don't have a problem with anyone who decides to not have kids. It's not even like I'm having kids. It's just that these people who are making these videos about being dinks, all they're bragging about is the most materialistic and dumb stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It's the bragging part that kind of really distracts everyone.
It's like, yeah.
But there's a lot of people that don't have kids. A lot of gay couples out there don't have kids. And their money just dies with their
Well, you can
inheritance.
donate your money.
Well, it goes to friends and stuff, but it's
you can donate it to something really good. I mean, lots of people who have kids, their money just goes to their kids' stupid college funds or whatever, drugs or whatever.
But I find say Provincetown, Massachusetts, it's like they say, it's like a place where money dies.
Gay guy.
Yeah, because the money isn't inherited. So they literally, these people who just spend all their money while they're alive.
Oh, I see.
And yeah, so it's just a really wealthy area just because of that factor,
So what do I tell people? Well, you really should come to Anarchapulco February 11th through 16th so you can hear this. But let me just give I'm going to give a little bit because the information is super important. So I want to the childless people, I want them to invest in our posterity. All right, so our posterity, the posterity of founding fathers, is the future generations, future kids. So there's, for several reasons. Well, first off, we're all going to need someone to take care of us someday. Everybody's going to need someone to take care of them at some point in their life. So if you don't have any kids, if you don't have anybody who loves you, it all comes down to love. If you don't have somebody younger that is able-bodied and cares about you to at least make sure you're being treated well in your nursing home, or at least you're in a good nursing home, life's going to really suck for you. Also, if when you start getting to be this age, 60, 70 years old, and you don't have any kids, you by default become one of the people I talk about that lacks confidence, that begs for government. Because especially like all these single women that don't have any children, not so much the single men, but the single women who don't have any children, they're the ones voting for, Biden. They're the ones that are gonna, and also there a lot of those, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them have been kind of, bought this, feminism nonsense, and they're, and they refuse to realize that there was a big mistake to go along with this feminism crap. That you don't need a man, you can be independent, and then they also start freaking out because they never had any kids. That part of the brain development didn't happen. They're feeling they've hit this wall essentially. Now I know a handful of older women that have invested heavily in their sister's kids or the friends down the road kids, or like I know a farm here in New Hampshire where there's the grandparents are essentially dinks, and then the parents of the kids have been friends with, I call them the surrogate grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
And then so anyways, so now there's like there's a 9-year-old and 11-year-old girl, and mom and dad are 40, and the surrogate grandparents are 60. I don't really know how old they are actually.
Yeah.
Say 60, and they are constantly doing stuff with the kids. They're helping the kids out. They babysit the kids. They teach the kids just all the things they know, and like these grandparents, surrogate grandparents are they're very well educated. They're smart. They get a lot of knowledge. I don't know if they have money or not. I don't think they're hurting. But anyways, they get tremendous joy and they're experiencing life satisfaction just like they have children and a family, and that they are just so grateful that they have this sort of adopted family, and they've been friends with the parents 25 years or something. They've known them for a long time, but if you don't have that. Like life's gonna is gonna get you're gonna get to this point in life to where it's gonna be scary. You're not who's gonna help you, who's gonna come, and especially if the world gets very unstable or you're part of the world. So children are really important. So I want to convince these people that are older, that are not gonna have any kids, to invest in some kids. And I sort of have some ideas how to do it, and also I care about. There's just so many good people I know that just aren't going to have any kids. They're older, and it's and I know of probably about 6 or 7 of them off the top of my head that basically don't have anybody in their life who's going to wipe their butt for them, or just be oh, you can come live in my house. You don't have to go to that nursing home. But the return on investment that you will get from investing in children and investing in families, and being kind, and helping out with this stuff, and then because you're older and wise, and maybe I can help you understand some things about brain development and helping the kids earn the dopamine hits, and you teach the kids things, whether it's how to ride a bicycle, how to play the piano, how to ride a horse, how to drive the car, that the kids can earn appreciation from, or even teach the kids a skill. I know a guy who's a blacksmith. He's actually he's in his 80s now, and he doesn't have any kids. And he was sort of a mentor to me a little bit, when I was younger. And he is actually what he has done is he moved in a family with him who was basically the father. He let him. He was an apprentice in his blacksmith shop, and then the dad went and. That this guy went and he worked in a machine shop and he did this stuff. But as a teenager, he was an apprentice for him, and he worked for this old guy. Quincy's actually the man's name. And he lives down in Massachusetts. And now and he's very successful, and he was actually a horseshoer, this Quincy.
Yeah, that's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and he's a little fella, and he doesn't shoe horses anymore, but horse shoer, not shoot. As in a farrier, he puts shoes on horses' hooves.
Yep,
Make that clear.
That's what I was asking. That's a hard job, isn't
Yep.
it? I've always heard that.
Yeah, my brother is a horse shoer. I was a horse shoer for a lot of years. I was a farrier. And yeah, it's physically demanding, but if you do it a lot and you're healthy and you don't get beat up and, but anyways, so this guy has a family living with him, and he basically has, so the state's not going to get his house. The state's not going to get his farm. The state's not going to get his farm equipment because this guy has his kids are going to get it. And they're not even his kids. And it just happened to be this one guy that, was a teenager, worked with him. And then, he got married and this, that, and the other thing. And the guy's got a father and stuff like that. But his wife, and his kids all live with this old man in his great, big, beautiful house. And the old man's he's like, when I last talked to him, he was like, my life's complete. This is wonderful. And so I saw this happen. I've known this guy since I was a little kid myself. And I saw this happen. So this is a beautiful thing because I've also seen the opposite thing happen. I've had a lot of horse customers over the years that are
getting old,
single people, and 3 weeks after they die, somebody out of house is stinking. And call the cops, and yep, sure enough, they're in there dead. They died by themselves, and it's like, well, what's happening to their stuff? Oh, well, I didn't have a will, or the church is getting it. But I know one guy, he's probably worth $5, $6, $7 million, and no will, no nothing. He died at 62. He died kind of young. He was not real healthy. But all of his stuff, the state just got it. The state of Massachusetts just got it.
That's
what
terrible.
a shame. So
yeah, people should definitely have
pick somebody
wills
to give it to.
Yeah.
And and make these relationships and invest in posterity. So the people who aren't going to have any kids are going to be dependent on government. They're going to vote for government to point guns at us to take care of them. So I want to avoid that.
Yep.
They're going to have a horrible, not good quality of life, for their final years. And and I see this old dude Quincy, who he's actually in pretty good shape from what I understand, but he's being well taken care of and just has such a great quality of life because he chose to invest. He actually invested in a lot of kids, teaching them blacksmithing, taking them horseshoeing with him, helping them out with horse related stuff. And so he won, and he didn't have to change a diaper.
Yeah.
But anyways, Anarchapulco, February 11th through 16th. There is going to be a whole bunch of speakers there. It's the anarchists are gathering in beautiful Acapulco. I am looking forward to it. You're going to be able to meet me, my wife, my kids, and my kids are just awesome. Everybody loves them, that meets them because, they're just, I'm just trying to set the example of what we need to do to have liberty in our lifetime, and we have to build Generation Next to be resilient, competent, polite, fun, valuable, and attractive.
And one thing that ties into something we were talking about last night that I was just thinking of when you're talking about choosing kids, if you don't have kids, choose some to help take care of or whatever, is I think that reality is literally just the aggregate of what everybody imagines and thinks and feels and then puts out into the world. I mean, that's literally what the definition of reality is. That everybody creates it together. It's not just, you can't create your own reality. I think that's a misled interpretation of the laws of attraction and stuff. You can have any type of life you want if you use the power of your mind. That's a misinterpreted way of seeing it. It's more just everybody together can, and that it's a lot less magical sounding that way. But if you're getting old and everyone's kids around you are just getting crappier and crappier, well, that's going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I do think of is if you help choose some kids that, especially if you think that they're not, their parents are at a disadvantage, they're poor or something like that, and you're just helping that little part of society grow up to be better. I know that people with both their parents have a huge advantage. Sometimes when people talk about how bad their lives were from their parents just simply being divorced. That they didn't even beat them or anything like that. I feel almost like, I feel not guilty. Like, I know it's not my fault, but I feel like, I feel a little privileged compared to them, because like just my parents being together made so much about life easier and better for me.
I mean, you, for example, I view you as like a valuable woman, and a lot of that is because you had your parents there.
Yeah.
And so, like I was talking to a young man the other day, and he was talking about dating this girl. I think he's like 15 years old, and I'm like, so the most important thing is what's her parents like? What's her relationship with her dad? And she's like, oh yeah, her dad's like a deadbeat, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, don't fall in love with this girl right away. You need to like feel this out. I didn't tell him to just like not do anything, because he would totally fall in love with her probably if I'm like, no, don't do this. I'm like, just like, you got to feel it out. You got to like, it takes a year or more for the dirt to come out in the wash, right? Like, because people can be on a really good behavior for several months in a
Especially
relationship.
if you don't live with them, like you're a high schooler and you just see them at high school.
Yep. And
or after hours.
And she's a very cute girl. And I'm like, if she's going to put out like real easy, she's going to put out for anybody real easy. Don't think you're special, things like that. And
the other thing is, I always want to tell girls, and I never do, because it's like no one's going to listen to me and it sounds mean, but I want to tell somebody really close to me in my life that I don't like her boyfriend because like many reasons. And I think a huge thing is men that have grown up without both parents in their lives, or especially without a dad, they feel so sorry for themselves for the rest of their life. Like, they can't imagine
victim mentality.
that nothing that they do to you could possibly be that big of a deal, because like, I just feel so sorry for myself for the rest of my life because I didn't have a dad. Like, and they may not be thinking that in the front of their brain. Like, that's not front and center in their mind, but that's how they act. And I would never date a guy without a dad.
A lot of that victim mentality programming, I believe, is not just from not having a dad, but it definitely, like, the seed for the victim mentality of not having dad in life for both the boys and the girls is like that seed's there. And the fertilizer and the water for that victim mentality is like sort of the school, like the public school coach. The public school, the critical race theory, especially with the with the black kids, being told that they're victims, they can't do this, they're facing oppression, and then saying that these guys got white privilege and all that stuff. And then another part of this investment thing that I would like to suggest to a lot of people is, so we have a lot of single moms with children. We have a lot of single moms with multiple children. 23% of the children in the United States are being raised by a single parent. 80 to 90% of those kids are being raised by just a mom. And so we have, and the thing is too, in the dating marketplace, like I know a handful of I know a bunch of single moms. We all know a bunch of single moms. They're everywhere. And it seems like, and from what and even just like you start listening to some of these things, like I do a lot of research, TED Talks, and like when I'm working and or whatever, doing stuff and listening to like these YouTube podcasts about family life and like the dating and like you have Just Pearly Things. She's pretty good.
I hate her.
It's okay. I think she has a lot of value in what she's got to talk about, and I don't agree with everything she says, but but definitely there's like a lot of good stuff there.
The other thing is she doesn't practice what she preaches. Like, she is ugly, doesn't take care of herself, and is fat. And then she acts like every other woman is trash if they've like had sex with more than one guy. You're not even trying to be attractive, and she's almost 40.
So.
Try to get a decent husband.
I'm like, I don't disagree with you. Put it that way. But that's like, so like her, like, this is like the shock value of like earning a dopamine hit as a YouTuber.
That's probably what it's all about.
As far as I'm concerned.
That's what I think she does.
So I'm not going to discount her for that, because she does bring a lot of, she is actually, I think she has value. So anyways, so for example, where was I going with this? Oh, so we have a whole bunch of single moms. Like, so the world average of children being raised by single parents is 7%. China's like 3.5%, but the United States is 23%. It's the highest in the world. And it's because the American government, the U.S. government,
gives you a bunch of money.
is subsidizing single moms.
Mhm.
And also, there's no fault divorce. Like I know so many people that have gotten divorced that legally couldn't have gotten divorced.
The state guides people to separate.
Yes.
Like when I say guided, they encourage them to make up stories.
Yep.
Encourage the system to work in their favor when they make little lies, and this is a way for them to separate men from their family. And I think it's purposeful. I think it's done on purpose. It's trained into these kids generationally, and public schools are not helping because the public schools are really just a filter for the kids and how the parents are treating the kids. So the kids are asked at school, do your parents touch you? Do they beat you? Do they do this, do that, do that? And the next thing you know, they're taking the kids away.
Yes, social emotional learning is what that's called. They have these, not quizzes, but surveys they'll give out to kids without the parents' knowledge, and it'll say stuff like, have you ever tried marijuana? How are you sexually active? And then they'll end up
I actually remember in second grade.
Oh, they were already doing that?
Yeah, it was 1987, maybe.
Mhm.
I was 7 years old, I think. But yes, I do remember them saying, "Do you know what marijuana smells like?"
Whoa.
Or pot or weed. Like they had like all the stuff. Have you ever seen this powder? Have you ever seen anybody snort it? Like there was
Whoa, so they're trying to get you to tell on your parents, basically.
I couldn't believe how many kids were like, "Oh yeah, my dad does that. My mom does that." And the thing is, kids know everything.
I just think that the state shouldn't be the solution,
or the parents.
Because the state is like angling it from one side or another to, like I said, lie to get things done. But then they're really getting rid of that nuclear family, sort of vibe, and so they don't want those dynamics because it's easier to control people when they're confused or adolescent and their brain isn't developed and all that stuff. So like these are important things that they want to prevent from happening in humanity.
Yeah, they want access to people's kids for sure.
Lily Tang Williams actually would touch on this a lot, talking about Mao's Cultural Revolution.
And she grew up in China during Mao.
Communist China, yep.
Mhm.
So that point that Joe brought up is really I have the exact evidence and the reason, and I have a very good explanation of why the state wants the parents to be divorced. But first, I want to get back to what I was talking about with the single mom epidemic. So we have all these single moms, and like single moms are just not desirable in the dating place. And so here's what's my observation. What's happening with single moms is you have single moms in their 30s or 40s, and they are they're still attractive, like physically. A lot of them have like attractive personalities. A lot of them are really like trying hard. They're doing a good job, and there's definitely some of them that are not. There's some of them that are just welfare trash, and they're just getting run through by whatever F boy they can come up with. There's all kinds of elements out there. But I definitely know of. Personally know probably close to a dozen single moms. I have a few kids that are like really great, and they're like not bad looking, or they're good looking, and they can't get a boyfriend.
Yeah, and I think that's I cannot blame anyone for just not being attracted to what they're not attracted to.
But I think I have a solution to this. We have a bunch of these wealthy older men who I think would be a great sugar daddy situation. And these moms could get, I would love there was some kind of dating service for get like these sugar daddy type dads. And I'm not talking like creepy guys. There would have to be some kind of thing. But like children need a father figure. There's these guys that they aren't fathers. They don't have any kids. And they would love to have some kind of life, somewhere to invest in. And I think that's like something to explore.
Yeah.
Jay's dating service.
Jay is seeking arrangement. So that's kind of what that already is a little bit. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
The United States federal government are doing everything they can to destroy the New Hampshire economy. As it stands, according to the World Bank, New Hampshire's per capita GDP is number 12 in the world, higher than the United States as a whole. However, every day the people of New Hampshire are feeling the effects of failed federal policies, with runaway inflation, high gas and food prices, and more of us are slipping underwater. Imagine your tax dollars staying right here in New Hampshire, instead of being sent to D.C. to be spent on wasteful programs that you didn't vote for and you don't want. Instead, we in New Hampshire can make a choice to govern ourselves and no longer be subjected to the 2.5 million unelected bureaucrats that are taking food off your family's table. New Hampshire can be a self-governing independent nation again, and the only way out is out. You can learn more about how we can peacefully divorce D.C. at nhindependence.org and join the movement at nhexit.us.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths says hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza. On Thursday, Griffiths told reporters that a humanitarian ceasefire is needed immediately or thousands of people will die of hunger. Jody Jacobs reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
Martin Griffiths says that the UN does not have a humanitarian operation in southern Gaza that can be called by that name anymore.
Our humanitarian program is no longer a functioning one. It is one of response to opportunity.
He said that the humanitarian plan to protect civilians in Gaza is in tatters and no place is safe. In a joint statement by 27 aid organizations, including UN agencies, they call for an immediate stop to the fighting, stressing that conditions in Gaza are amongst the worst they have witnessed. The UN Security Council will on Friday vote on a draft resolution which calls for an immediate ceasefire. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his allies are expected to spend Friday trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill was meant to resurrect the government's flagship immigration policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it's angered many people on the right of his party. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Some British lawmakers are calling this the most dangerous moment yet for Rishi Sunak's prime ministership. This new legislation was meant to shield the government from legal challenges by British and international courts by declaring Rwanda a safe country to send asylum seekers to. But Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick resigned, saying he felt it didn't go far enough. His supporters say the bill still leaves room for those facing deportation to initiate a legal challenge, meaning likely more legal headaches to come. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said if the bill had gone any further disregarding human rights legislation, then Rwanda would have pulled out of the deal. A first parliamentary vote is due to be held next week. Stuart Smith, London.
The man who killed 3 people at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas has been named as a 67-year-old college professor. Investigators are looking into a possible motive, but reports suggest he'd applied for a job at the university and had been turned down. The gunman died in a shootout with police. The university police chief Adam Garci briefed reporters on what happened.
2 of our detectives responded to the scene and immediately engaged the suspect in a shootout. The suspect was struck and is deceased at this time. The campus was almost immediately closed, and out of an abundance of caution, all Nevada System of Higher Education institutions in Southern Nevada were as well closed. UNLV will remain closed for the remainder of today, tomorrow, and Friday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, remembering Norman Lear, in many ways the creator of the modern American sitcom. He died in Los Angeles on Tuesday at the age of 101. He was determined to make American television more meaningful, and when he came across the British comedy Till Death Us Do Part, about social, political and race-based tensions within working-class families, he decided to create an American version of it. All in the Family was unlike anything the country had seen before. It dominated the ratings in the 70s and put Lear on the path to long-term success. 9 years ago, in an interview with PBS, he decried the modern state of the very medium that he had done so much to improve.
I think what's dangerous is 24 hours a day, 335 channels. Too much is too much.
Why is that dangerous?
Because people have other things to do. And if there was a better sense of responsibility in the various leadership positions in our country, things would be not as grotesquely overdone as they are now.
Meaning
I think we've become much more a nation of consumers than citizens.
Norman Lear was a luminary of the left and won his 5th Emmy at the age of 97, the oldest recipient ever. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news, again. The UN's humanitarian chief says its operations in Gaza are nearly impossible with the ongoing Israel assaults. Thousands of people will die of hunger, he says, without a ceasefire. The UK's Prime Minister is trying to convince his own MPs to vote for a Rwanda bill to send asylum seekers to the Central African nation. And Las Vegas police have named the shooter of a gun attack at the University of Nevada as a college professor. Reports suggest he was turned down for a job there. There's more from us on Twitter @FeatureStory. And that's the latest from Feature Story News. Caroline Malone reporting.
Following several months of negotiations, representatives at the Minnesota State Museum confirmed today that they've extended their final offer to the anonymous owner of the couch from the hit 1970s sitcom The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
We hope an agreement can be reached soon because after months of back and forth, we just need a straight answer here.
Healy noted that the brown velvet artifact would be a welcome addition to its media wing, which boasts a robust collection, including several iconic Minnesota pieces.
We have the fence from Grumpy Old Men. We acquired the puck from the Mighty Ducks several months ago.
Healy and his team made their first bid in December of 2012 and have cycled through 5 rounds of negotiations, reportedly tripling their initial offer in an urgent attempt to secure the sale.
It's not every day that an artifact of this significance comes on the market and went... Oh my God, it's him. It's him, okay? Hello, sir. What would you say if I went up another 2?
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. And 603-203-6160 is the phone number you can call to get in on the conversation with us. 603-283-6160 is the phone number.
I'm surprised we haven't had more calls.
Yeah, we didn't get any calls yesterday either, except for freaking Skeeter, who I'm ignoring.
Might have someone calling in.
But yesterday we didn't get any calls either, so I don't know what's up with that. Maybe people are on vacations, their kids are off from college or something like that, and they're just not listening to Free Talk Live, or at least not wanting to call in right now. I don't know why that does and doesn't happen. Sometimes you get a lot of calls. Even the days of the week don't seem to matter that much. I guess they say that Saturday is the biggest day for listeners and callers, but the other ones just seem to be random to me. 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And we've been talking mostly about cultural issues tonight. We started off the show talking about this FBI agent who was carjacked in Capitol Hill. And you know one thing that's kind of funny about it? It's like, if a regular citizen gets carjacked, it's not going to get this
That's just
NBC
normal.
News.
Sure.
Right. It's like they wanted to make
usual.
They wanted to make a big deal out of it because it was a poor FBI
It's
employee.
it's like when someone dies on the highway, it might make the news.
Mhm.
But when a cop dies on a highway,
Yeah.
all over the news.
Yeah, and then there is a memorial for him.
And like, I wanted to bring this up tonight. Actually, this is a great topic. I made a meme saying, if you think pulling people over is a good thing for society, please seek some help. You may be suicidal, because the worst part of a cop's job, the most dangerous part of a job, his job or her job, is to pull someone over and to be standing outside the vehicle near flying vehicles that generally are in high speed traffic areas anyways.
Several ton giant metal boxes.
Yeah, and apparently another cop yesterday in Massachusetts got killed by someone hit him.
And so this is like workman's comp, right? So like being a roofer is like very expensive workman's comp because it's.
Oh, that's very weird. Sorry, are you guys hearing that? Yeah,
I did hear that little breaking
your
up.
mic was breaking up. It was weird because I muted mine to cough a little bit, and maybe that did it. Sorry.
So, anyways, the like roofing is really dangerous. So it's like for every like $100 in pay that you, as a roofing contractor, pay one of your employees, you have to pay in Massachusetts $25 towards workman's comp. That's not towards like other things like taxes and payroll taxes and stuff. It's like that's just workman's comp.
Right.
So when a police officer who is an employee of the state gets if like the most dangerous part of his job is getting run over by a car or injured, and it's, I mean, I've been broke down on the side of the road before.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. I've worked construction on the side of the interstate, done repairs on the side of the fast roads, driving farm equipment in Colorado, like down the interstate, driving like a corn chopper 16 miles an hour down the interstate, and you got semis ripping by you at 85 miles an hour. That's scary stuff.
Oh yeah,
this is a massive liability for the taxpayers. Like that poor guy that got killed. Does he have a family? He's got kids. I mean, that really sucks.
I don't know if the guy may have done it on purpose. He also killed 2 construction workers involved in
You
this
think
too.
that he might have committed suicide?
And he also no. The guy purposely
hit
ran
him.
into the cop.
Whoa.
And then he like crashed because he crashed his vehicle. He stole a police cruiser, and they finally caught him. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy, unique story. I don't know what was up with that guy, but I mean,
but just in general, the traffic fatalities and in relation to police officers, because they're constantly pulling people over, engaging in this armed tax collection through revenue collection through writing tickets, is a massive liability for the people. So I wonder, in places like Vermont, for example, it's like super aggressive. But Vermont's not even there's very little traffic in Vermont. And like Massachusetts, I was in Massachusetts yesterday. Drove all over, it was all over Massachusetts yesterday, gathering up cattle and stuff. And I saw so many cops. I was like, man, this place is just.
I see so many cops. I never get pulled over or anything, but
especially
I see so
on Christmas
many cops
season,
there.
I find that they think there's parties going on everywhere and people are drinking and driving, which may be true. But it just it's so harassing. Like you guys have so many better things to be doing. And I get it. Drunk drivers can be a problem, but you're more likely ruining the person's life versus that person who's going to crash and ruin someone else's life. That's a fact. The cops are not helping. They're causing more damage you could imagine. Yes, I know they stopped someone from driving drunk, right? But the idea is that guy probably would have made it home. Just like 99% of the rest of them. Yeah. It's just that 1%, swerves and kills someone.
And the reason these cops are so aggressive about
I'm not saying
tickets,
drunk driving is good. Okay, I'm not saying that.
Especially in Massachusetts, they are literally trained in Massachusetts. It's like they're basically told if you want a pension, you need to write tickets.
Yeah.
You know what's another thing that feels so, like you said, it feels so harassing when there's that many cops around. I hate that anytime you drive late at night and you're one of the only cars on the road, it feels so nice and calm. There's no potential of just somebody ramming into the back of your car. Oh, isn't that nice? But you're the only one on the road with this cop driving by, and it feels like you're really honed in on. You gotta you get this nervous wave because you're the only one on the road and you see a cop drive by, you're like, oh. Like, they wouldn't be
I
there
generally
normally.
don't anymore, just because
Don't what?
from what I do. Like, I don't get the adrenaline rush. I don't get scared.
I don't like get really scared. I just get like they're really a dangerous criminal, and and I feel
they
zoned in on. You
I
know?
only get that feeling if they catch me off guard, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see you there. You know, like
that's what happened last night.
typically I can see. I have
Or the other
good
night.
copdar,
Mhm.
right? Like I can tell where they are and that sort of thing, and I know where they hide and all that. It's just I got good feelings for it.
The other day, I went in not the middle of the night, but like right before 11 o'clock to Hannaford to go get ice cream. I just wanted ice cream, and I was like, they're about to close. So when I was driving home, a cop pulled out of the Starbucks
Yeah,
parking lot. Actually, maybe they were just sitting there hanging out, and it was
they
like
check the park there and stuff.
It was nice until I saw that. Like I was the only car on the road.
Right.
And then you feel like, they're
Yeah,
really
no,
watching
people feel
you.
like crap. Like, oh my god, am I gonna get pulled over? My night is my night, my day, my month, my year is gonna be ruined right now.
Your life, possibly.
Yeah, your life. For real. People think about that all the time, and it's just sad. Like, we have that feared society of the people that were supposedly,
Supposed to protect us.
And they're taking our money to help us. Yeah, right.
So, like, the cops have a financial incentive. Their pension fund relies on, them, writing these tickets, making sure that, like, for example, in Massachusetts, they were super aggressive about, like, I used to, when I was in limited Massachusetts, I had New Hampshire license plates.
Right.
And they were just constantly, looking to, like, harass you over that, because it is part of their training. It is part of the criminal justice. I don't know if it's a criminal justice or if it's a state. It was always seemed like it was more like state cops and like local cops, or if it was part of the state trooper training. And I have a good friend who's a retired state trooper now, and the dude's so cool since he retired. He was always cool with me, because he was like kind of my buddy, but like now he's like extra cool. Anyways, and I talked. He's probably listening to the show right now, because he does listen.
Nice.
And anyways, he's like, yeah. So he's sort of got me on about. I'm like, why are they so aggressive about, like, out of state plates and stuff, like the state troopers? And he's like, oh, because all the state troopers became registry cops. And when you're a registry cop, in Massachusetts has this thing called the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Some places got Department of Motor Vehicles, but Registry of Motor Vehicles is where you go. You got these, career classic bureaucratic useless pile of crap parasites working behind a desk that are just like to have no personality. They're just rotten to the core people. They're there to make your life miserable, and like they get a power trip off it, they get a dopamine hit off of it, and which is true because I have another friend that worked in the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and she was like, yes, that's exactly how the culture of those people are. They are not good.
For sure.
So anyways, he was like, well, we are told that our pension depends on people like registering their cars, and also our pension, like if you don't write 3 times your salary in tickets per year, you're basically not going to have a pension to collect, or your pension is going to be weak. And I'm like, well, that's BS, because as long as there's you guys to point guns at the tax collectors, there's going to be pensions.
They have to have some kind of incentive if their incentive isn't just, to do the right thing.
So Joa had brought up in the last segment how, like, there is this intentional incentive to break up the
family
unit, to break up the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And
this creates more criminals, in essence. The kids are not raised by a dad, and they commit crimes, and that justifies the state and the police. So they want disrupted families. They want crime. They want, disruption in that, family norm.
I have the evidence of why there's what the incentive is. So the incentive comes out of Social Security Administration Title 4D, as in David. And 4, you want to use a Roman numeral 4, IV, when you do the internet search for this. And you can read in IVD that there is a federal incentive to where 66% of the child support that is collected by family court is given directly to the state's judicial pension fund.
Go figure.
Whoa, that's so
And if
dirty.
you don't pay that, you go to jail. You hear that, single dads?
So
single dads without the kids.
So if you There's a guy, his name is Jeff Younger. So if you internet search YouTube Jeff Younger, there's a few videos that come up. And Jeff Younger and do Title 4D or Jeff Younger child support. He was on Timcast a while ago. In fact, I'd really like to talk to this guy because he's got some great stuff. And I've been learning a lot from watching his videos and reading about some of his things. And he actually ran for, I think, Congress, Jeff Younger for Congress in Texas, or maybe a state representative. I can't remember. But anyways, he's from Texas. And he talks about how in the Texas code that, and he has this right on a screen, and it's like, you know, Texas code 22.34, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if that's the numbers, but he talks about how this is the instructions for setting child support payments for the Texas Family Court. And the Texas Family Court is instructed to set child support payments or awards, actually, is I think how they award it. Child support awards based on the maximum state revenue under Title 4D. And this is, you know, where the Judicial Pension Fund gets 66% of this. So we have a massive incentive of this stuff to happen. So I'm going to read you a thing here. J.R. Hull brought this to my attention. J.R. Hull is a state representative here in New Hampshire who is actually working on bringing a lawsuit against New Hampshire DCYF. He's the guy. Because they went
after him and his kids.
Yep,
for
ivermectin.
using
very safe ivermectin. Nobel Prize winning ivermectin. Anyways, Granite State College, as part of the Child Welfare Education Partnership, offers a class titled DCYF Revenue Enhancement and RMS. This is available for social workers to maximize revenue for DCYF. This workshop, and I'm quoting this right now, I actually quoted most of this. This is available for social workers to maximize DCYF is not a quote. That's my commentary. This workshop will provide critical information regarding the various federal funding sources and how to access these sources in order to provide services to children and families. Staff will learn about various federal funding sources, Title 4A, Title 4E, and Medicaid for both services and administration. Documentation requirements for accessing federal funds will be discussed. Now, upon further research, and what I've learned is that the social workers are also informed, trained, told, I don't know if it's through this program, but this is what a actual retired New Hampshire social worker explained to me, that you need to do all of this stuff because this is how you get paid. This is how you have a pension. They're also told that they must, there must be like 3 to 4 people to replace them. So the bureaucracy,
so it's a Ponzi scheme
to support
pyramid
the
scheme.
To support the pyramid Ponzi scheme of their pension fund. Anyways, so the incentive to keep all the social workers in a job, all the lawyers in a job for these bureaucracies, the janitors, the companies that get the contracts to service like the buildings and all this stuff, the building contract, the construction companies, is to get this federal money. This is another reason why New Hampshire needs to dissolve the corporation calling itself State of New Hampshire, get rid of it, and repopulate and basically reanimate the New Hampshire state, the entity that's described in the New Hampshire Constitution, and get away from all of this federal money coming into New Hampshire, because it is corrupting New Hampshire. It's corrupting every state. It is corrupting the families. It is creating incentive to destroy families, to tear apart families. And all the evidence is in black and white. All we got to do is just look for it and talk about it. And Mike Gill, New Hampshire State of Corruption, or State of Corruption New Hampshire, I'm not exactly sure how his thing is, what his website is. We should get that. But Mike Gill, actually, he did a...
is it GILO?
Yeah, he did testified before the Family Law Committee 5 years ago. I just watched his video a couple of times the other day.
And he's New Hampshire?
He's hiding from the cabal in Florida, and he is allegedly working with the Trump administration, so he's not in New Hampshire anymore. This guy claims they've tried to kill him. The Secretary of State offered him $50 million to shut up, to not sign non-disclosure, and he said, nope, I'm going to fight you guys in court, and he lost because he didn't realize that all the judges are compromised and corrupt.
I think, just to put a little background on who Mike Gill is, I believe he ran
for governor.
Well, no. He the company that he runs is like the biggest
mortgage
lender
in New Hampshire,
and he basically took no in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's because he took no risk loans. Like he allowed the no risk loans. So basically, as in like he's never lost on his loans. He won't take risky loans, right?
Okay.
He won't offer them. I think that's what the deal is, and that's why he was the most successful.
Wow, all I can find is a bunch of
So YouTube, State of Corruption NH.
Oh, that's his website?
Nope, this is his YouTube channel. It's called
Okay.
State of Corruption NH.
You can probably find it on
And-
there, but just like on Google searching him, I could not find a website. It was only stuff like this thing from the Telegraph talking crap about him. It says like years of publicly accusing people of criminal behavior
Right.
and
Oh, yeah.
corruption
Right.
caught up with Michael Gill.
Yeah. The deep state hates him. The parasite class hates him.
I never heard of him.
So if you go internet,
definitely watch his videos.
State of Corruption, Family Court Committee, and he taught. Maybe during the next break, I'll bring up a snippet of this and we can play a little bit because this is really good. Because like I'm actually going to be calling a committee to investigate family court over in New Hampshire over these. This Title 4D money, which is like an insane amount of money coming out of the Social Security Administration, which is, the Social Security Trust Fund is just being looted via this Title 4. So the social workers at DCYF are incentivized. They're trained. They go to classes on how to extract this Title 4 money because it goes towards funding DCYF. It goes towards state pensions. We know it goes towards judicial pensions. So Title IV, there's A, B, C, D,
And you said it was
E.
like 60% of child support goes towards judicial pensions?
So what I understand about Title 4D,
Mhm.
and Mike Jeff Younger like really explains this, is that if a child support award is, let's say, given for $1,000, and let's say like a dad makes $3,000 every 2 weeks. He gets paid every 2 weeks. The family court says, all right, that 28% or whatever the number is. Roughly, it's a third. So now you have to pay, $1,000 every paycheck for your child support. And then what happens is that 66% of that $1,000, which would be $660, and it's amazing they use this term. They use it 66%. I mean, because it's like it's not amazing. It just makes perfect sense because these guys all worship Satan. They are an evil cabal.
Is it 66.6666 repeating?
No, it's just 66%. Yeah, just
Usually
internet
that is because that's like
right.
the 2/3.
So anyways,
Makes it even evil,
what
yeah.
happens is the Social Security Administration gives this to the Judicial Pension Fund. So by default, everybody who participates in a judicial pension fund, so this would be judges, this would be the prosecutors, this would be attorney generals, this would be secretaries in the prosecutor's office, this would be like probably the janitor, it's all these guys. They are all compromised. There is a conflict of interest, and they are by definition 100% corrupt.
Yeah.
And
I just gotta say, I'm not surprised at all that Damian Fisher is the guy who wrote this like hit piece about this guy.
yeah, so
He writes
Mike Gill is
crappy.
good based on what Damian Fisher is saying about him because of what Damian Fisher has said about other people, right?
Right.
Yeah. So makes perfect sense. So anyways, I'm actually going to be getting an affidavit from Mike Gill is my intent here because we need to fix this. And here's another reason that New Hampshire should be a destination for anyone who loves freedom. So in New Hampshire, like I said earlier, there is no legislative pension fund. The legislature is essentially a volunteer position. $100 a year stipend is nothing. And so you don't have legislators that are, like in Massachusetts, the legislature has a pension fund. So I'm sure that this
Crazy.
Title IV
I
money,
can't believe that. You run for office and you get a pension?
That is crazy.
Yeah, in Massachusetts, sure.
That's so wild.
I've never really paid attention to local
Well, if you're a
government
judge, you get a
until-
pension.
Mhm.
If you're in the executive branch, you get a pension. If you're a family court
In New
judge,
Hampshire.
if you're a lawyer, all the states.
Yeah,
This is why it's so corrupt. This is why Child Protection Service industrial complex has been able to rape, kill, murder, lie, cheat, steal, do all this diabolic evil stuff, and it just keeps happening and happening and happening and happening and happening again and again and again and again. And they give out settlements, and the people they give settlements to are like they can't talk about it
Mhm.
because they signed non-disclosure.
I was just telling the other host yesterday, I know this guy. He's a really nice guy. He fixes my dryer and washer when they break. And he was over yesterday and he was telling me his situation that is, I can tell you off the air, it's really messed up. And whenever he goes to court, I'll ask him if I can go film it. But he's dealing with family court stuff right now. And he knows a girl who, she was telling his daughter she's getting beat by her dad. But she's like, don't tell anyone. I will lie and say he's not beating me because I do not want to go back to the DCYF group home that bad. She'd rather get beat by her dad than go to the group home. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone. The United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths says hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza with the ongoing Israel assault. On Thursday, Griffiths told reporters that a humanitarian ceasefire is needed immediately or thousands of people will die of hunger. Jody Jacobs reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
Martin Griffiths says that the UN does not have a humanitarian operation in southern Gaza that can be called by that name anymore.
Our humanitarian program is no longer a functioning one. It is one of response to opportunity.
He said that the humanitarian plan to protect civilians in Gaza is in tatters and no place is safe. In a joint statement by 27 aid organizations, including UN agencies, they call for an immediate stop to the fighting, stressing that conditions in Gaza are amongst the worst they have witnessed. The UN Security Council will on Friday vote on a draft resolution which calls for an immediate ceasefire. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his allies are expected to spend Friday trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill was meant to resurrect the government's flagship immigration policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it's angered many people on the right of his party. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Some British lawmakers are calling this the most dangerous moment yet for Rishi Sunak's prime ministership. This new legislation was meant to shield the government from legal challenges by British and international courts by declaring Rwanda a safe country to send asylum seekers to. But Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick resigned, saying he felt it didn't go far enough. His supporters say the bill still leaves room for those facing deportation to initiate a legal challenge, meaning likely more legal headaches to come. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said if the bill had gone any further disregarding human rights legislation, then Rwanda would have pulled out of the deal. A first parliamentary vote is due to be held next week. Stuart Smith, London.
The man who killed 3 people at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas has been named as a 67-year-old college professor. Investigators are looking into a possible motive, but reports suggest he'd applied for a job at the university and had been turned down. The gunman died in a shootout with police. The University Police Chief Adam Garci briefed reporters on what happened.
2 of our detectives responded to the scene and immediately engaged the suspect in a shootout. The suspect was struck and is deceased at this time. The campus was almost immediately closed, and out of an abundance of caution, all Nevada System of Higher Education institutions in Southern Nevada were as well closed. UNLV will remain closed for the remainder of today, tomorrow, and Friday.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. It's talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call to get in on the conversation with us. That's 603-283-6160. There's only this last segment left if you want to get on the phone with us. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Jay.
And Joa.
And it does look like we have a caller, so I'm going to go see what is on their mind. Unscreened caller, what's on your mind?
My name is Mike Gill.
Really?
Frank asked me to call in.
That's awesome. Mike, I've been looking to get a hold of you. I just left a comment on your family committee YouTube thing. I don't know how much of the show you've been listening to. And I have caught DCYF, family court, the Superior Court, Circuit Court, prosecutors in a conspiracy to deprive me and my family of their rights. And I've been working on an affidavit with these guys to bring them. And we also did a David Jose style affidavit process. And we have a committee to investigate DCYF happening. And it is the chair of this committee is someone who is excellent.
And Mike, I've seen pretty much all of your videos, but I watched them like a couple of years ago or like a year ago. So it's exciting to have you on.
Yeah, I did quite a few in 20 as I was dealing with Flynn and those things.
Sure.
But they snatched up my videographer, the feds, and
how so?
Well, it's how they flip everybody. I mean, everything, every move that I'm making, the FBI's involved. The head of the deep state is the FBI.
Sure.
And the intelligence agency.
I'm not surprised.
What protects is what's at the top of the totem pole. That's why in our courts, the courts are rigged. They're all corrupt. I mean, that's what they control. That's why my position is that you don't beat them in court. And you see what's going on with Trump. He's not going to win in court.
Right.
I didn't win in court. It's their tool. What you got to do is go outside the box and you find their money. And now, New Hampshire is ground zero of not just the country, the world. I mean, they moved $935 billion into New Hampshire. They got tracked from cartels and corrupt politicians to this country, not counting the domestic in the trillions. Why hasn't the people of New Hampshire demand to know those names?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Why do you think the cartels selling auto fare, Prospective Trust, Granite State Recovery, they're in the Pandora Papers. They're in those laundering networks.
Yeah.
We could end this in one swoop. And let's hope that's what's on the table with Trump.
It sounds like Jay has found some, followed the money in a little bit of the situation he's in with his wife, and they're going after his kids. What was
Who's
that?
This?
So I'm Jay Noon. I moved here for the Free State Project.
No, I got to Jay. Are they going after your kids, Jay?
Well, not anymore. So I actually beat them in family court. What had happened is I live on Henniker. We actually have a police department that, like, the chief of police is like a good stand-up family man. And as you know, Mike, the family men are generally not corrupt because they have something, they want a good place for their family. And so
any police officer in this state knows the criminality in the drug cartel, and if they're not standing up, I don't call them good. I call them complacent.
Well, I can tell you the Henniker chief of police stood up in this situation. So what had happened is, real quick, my wife had let our daughter, 2-year-old daughter, take a nap in a car while she ran into TJ Maxx in Concord. And she comes out about 20 minutes later, and there's a cop out there. And actually, the reporting witness, the one who called this in, her name, Donna Barnett. I don't know if you know who she is. She's a secretary in the Merrimack County Prosecutor's Office. And anyways, she so DCYF starts calling us. They want to. The cops didn't do anything. In fact, the police report the cop wrote basically says everything's good, everything's cool. There was no harm, no injury.
Child's not in danger.
Yep, all this stuff. You just peacefully napping in the car, climate control on. Middle of March. Children don't die of heat exhaustion in cars in New Hampshire. There's actually 0 cases of it. And so, anyways, the DCYF is harassing us. I'm like, I'm not contracting with you guys. I reject your offer. I sent them a fee schedule, sent them a cease and desist order, told them to leave me alone. I got the local chief of police coming to my house every day, 4 days in a row, looking for me. I was out working, out doing stuff. So I call the guy up. I'm like, hey,
why were they looking for you?
Because DCYF wanted to come inspect my house, interview my 2-year-old daughter alone, and us to provide medical records. So DCYF, Melissa Coombs, a social worker, lies in her affidavit. She gets an order from family court. You know that family court rubber stamps every single document that the social workers put in front of them. Because
completely corrupt.
Yep, because every time they do an assessment, they get like a $6,000 payout from the federal government, which funds their operation. And then the judges
Did you get the accountant of that? And who gets paid and what get paid?
We're going to get the accounting of it. That is part of our.
I know somebody who has that, but go ahead.
That's awesome. Thank you. So Jeff Younger is a guy I've been paying attention to a little bit out of Texas. He's sort of enlightened me a lot on this. I haven't met him yet. But so anyways, what happened is in their narrative, in the affidavit, the social worker writes, so the chief of police, I say to him, yeah, me and the kids are and the wife and the kids are going out to breakfast. Why don't we meet you down at the Pancake House? Just come have breakfast with us. He says, thanks. So he comes in, we meet him there, we sit down, we have breakfast, we chat, and he shows me this order from family court. And he's like, and I'm flipping through it, and I get to paragraph 8. In paragraph 8, the social worker writes, we contacted Henniker Police Department. Henniker Police informed us that they are familiar with the Noon family, as they are free stater, anti-government, live on a compound with lookouts, and we were advised by Henniker Police that this situation is very dangerous and we should get an order from the family court. So I asked the chief of police, I'm like, what's up with this? And he's like, I didn't do this. None of my guys did this. So he actually tells, after we have this meeting, the social workers, I've interviewed the children, I've talked to everybody, and he talked with us. He's a really nice guy. He's like, there's no neglect or abuse. The kids are like perfect for what their age is and their development, and he's got kids himself. And multiple times the chief of police within the next month came to my house and his officers several times, and they talked with me. And I'm a farmer, so I'm like, cleaning out my stock trailer. I'm feeding cattle, we're feeding pigs, and I'm doing all this stuff with my kids. Chief of police comes there, he sees me doing this stuff, and he tells I got all the emails between the chief of police and the social worker where the chief of police is like, why are you guys harassing this guy? And you're you're doing all this stuff, and these are good people. Leave them alone. All of this over a kid being left in a car for
and you
a little
have
bit.
that all documented,
I
right?
have everything documented.
Okay.
So what I did is what they did next, Ross McLeod, who was an attorney for DCYF, filed a motion, a petition, or a contempt order. And a DCYF contempt order basically means nothing. It really has no force in
What were they saying? You weren't cooperating?
They were saying that I was that they immediately needed to. Let me back up a little bit. They were saying yes because I refused. I rejected their offer to contract. DCYF is just this municipal corporation that tries to get you to contract with them. And since I'm one of these people, I don't take any government benefits. I don't have a social security number. I don't participate in any of this garbage. They have no jurisdiction over me. I never waived any rights. So in this assessment order, they want to interview child, inspect the premises, interview child alone, inspect the premises. And we know when they interview a 2-year-old alone, they'll come back and say, oh, you were doing this inappropriate thing. The kid said so.
Yep.
And
they could say the kid said it, or the kid could get confused and not know what they're talking about.
I'm with you on that.
Yep. So anyways.
And listen, there's a want to here, an assistant, and how are you going to trust that? So in other words, they're looking like they're forcing the issue to the point where they're going to create it.
Yeah. Oh, so they actually, they were trying so hard to do
Well,
this.
the real reason why they try to isolate and want to talk to the kid alone is because they want to get the kid alone, and then they can seize the kid.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing. The assessment order states a police officer, child protection social worker, a parole whatever officer, child service officer shall inspect premises, interview child, blah, blah, blah. So I say to the Henniker chief of police, because my wife was like freaking out. I sent her far away. You know, my kids weren't with me for 2 weeks. That was like not good for my kids. You know, they need their dad. And so my family's away. I'm not working. I'm dealing with this crap. You know, it's costing me some serious aggravation. I got rid of a bunch of livestock. I just dumped them at market because I couldn't deal with them. It really screwed us up. So anyways, I say to the chief of police, I says, hey, this order says a police officer can do this assessment. Now, I trust this guy. He's a family man. And so I say to him, you can do this assessment. He says, Jay, that's great. I'm glad you want to resolve this. I'm like, listen, in the best interest, you know, these guys are psychopaths. They like murder people. You know, they send kids to known rapists and pedophiles.
You know what I would say to them? I said, listen, if they're that concerned about your 2-year-old, where were they when 1,000 children were beaten and raped in Sununu Detention Center?
Right. You're exactly right.
They're so concerned.
Yep.
We went and think about this. Those were children that was taking from parents, a lot of them.
Yeah.
So in other words, in this same system, and were abused their whole time in there.
Yes.
But, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So anyways, this order says a police officer can do this. So the chief of police says, that's great. I will get back to you about doing the assessment. Now, meanwhile, he's told these guys that there's no abuse or neglect and everything's like good. And
Has he got back to you yet?
Oh, yeah. So this was happening. This was 2020, 2022. This was going on. This has been going on for a year and a half.
All right.
So he 2 days later, he comes back. He goes, Jay, they told me I can't do the assessment. They said that I am not qualified to do the assessment. So like his lieutenant, one of his lieutenants is a woman that's married, you know, to the father of her children, you know, good family values. She actually trained to be a social worker. She was a social worker for a little while. She has all this victim abuse, child crimes training, blah, blah, blah. And they said that they don't have the credentials. They can't do it. And what I said to him was, I go, they don't want you doing it because what happens is they don't get the federal money if the police does the assessment. They only get the federal money if
they may not get the results they're looking for either.
Correct. So
what I might have suggested, and maybe you did it already, again, I would have, is it possible to have the officer there with the worker?
So I didn't want the social worker there at all because I didn't want him getting the federal money. And the other thing, too, is I didn't see this particular document, but the way it was laid out to me is in order for them to do this assessment, I have to agree to it in writing. And basically, this document holds them harmless where I'm agreeing to their service.
You have a choice. Just say no.
So
it's easy as that.
So anyways, so the social worker actually lied a second time. And then Ross McLeod, this dirtbag attorney, who I'm going to really try hard to make sure he can't work anymore, you know, because I want to put him in prison where he belongs. So anyways, Ross McLeod from Milford, New Hampshire, and he's raised a lot of hell there. He puts in a contempt order against me. And when Ross McLeod put in the same contempt order against J.R. Hull, who's a friend of mine, a state representative here, who they actually got an order. Yep. Okay. So I don't know if you know what happened with him with the ivermectin. So anyways, J.R. Hull told Ross McLeod, his lawyer told Ross McLeod in writing, in the family court thing, that he spent $50,000 on these freaking lawyers. The guy only made $38,000 a year. He had to spend $50,000 on lawyers for DCYF crap. Wow. So anyways, told him that there's a New Hampshire Supreme Court ruling, and you understand this, Mike, that if that you can only be in contempt if you were ordered to do something. Well, this assessment order doesn't order me or my wife to do anything. It orders a police officer or a social worker to do this assessment, not me. And this lawyer is aware of this because he was already shut down once. And family court is aware of this also because family court has been shut down. Erin McIntyre is the judge in Hillsborough Family Court who just rubber stamps all these things that comes through Hillsborough because, you know, she's part of the cabal. She's a beneficiary of the Judicial Pension Fund. She gets this federal money. You know, these guys are all compromised by the Judicial Pension Fund. I actually plan to have a meeting with the Merrimack County elected prosecutor about this malicious prosecution happening in his office right now. So
I think all state pensions should go away.
So
that's
that,
my opinion.
That being said, the chief of police did a motion to intervene in family court, and he went into family court, and they fought this motion to intervene left and right. He went into family court. He said, "Hey, you know, I've talked to the family. You know, they're good people. Actually, if you." I'll link it here on your Facebook page on your family court committee thing and my reading of the affidavit of the Henniker chief of police that was basically, or a narrative or whatever it was submitted with his family court motion to intervene, and he got a motion to vacate. So he got the whole family court vacated. The day the family court issue got vacated, they put a warrant out for my wife's arrest out of Concord.
Oh, man.
And a warrant for child endangerment. And then we go to this garbage pretend court called Circuit Court. And this judge, Guptill's his name, he's just...
What's his name?
Guptill.
Okay, no.
He's really young. I had never seen such a young judge. He looked like he was like in his 30s.
So anyways, they deny all of our, dismiss, objections. You know, I bring up that there's no victim, there's no injury. We get the cop on the stand, and the prosecutor was pretty slick. Like, I didn't know to like really subpoena all the witnesses myself, so I could. So the actual cop who wrote the warrant never even showed up to court that day. The cop who assisted the assisting cop showed up. So I asked his cop on the stand, and this whole court hearing and trial, bench trial, is all on Odyssey and YouTube and stuff, and I can put those links.
Look
Get
up
those
Jane
here.
Noon. It's Noone.
So, anyways, at the trial, I was my wife's attorney. In fact, I was her defense counsel, and I was able to question these cops. So at the trial, I asked the cop if my daughter was in any danger, and he said no. She wasn't, but my wife was charged with child endangerment. I also asked a cop on the stand. I said, does the New Hampshire RSAs, the statutory law, apply to you because you're standing on the land of the soil we call New Hampshire? And he says yes. And then I said, okay, what evidence do you rely on that the New Hampshire revised statutes annotated apply to someone because they're standing on a soil we call New Hampshire? And he says, I don't have that evidence. And because there is no such evidence. And they found my wife guilty. And then the sentence, get this, was no fine, no child classes. The prosecutor asked for a fine and child education classes or parenting classes. And it was 45 days in the House of Correction, suspended for 1 year. So I actually teach a homeschool curriculum called Man Camp because I need to man up all the boys. So our future is bright and beautiful, and we have strong culture here in New Hampshire. That's what I came here for. So, I teach kids farming and blacksmithing and welding and heavy equipment repair, all the skills I have. I'm teaching to all the kids. So, anyways, I don't want my wife having this conviction of child endangerment. So we appeal it. Now we're going to Superior Court, and it's the same garbage with Superior Court. The guy's name is Kissinger in Superior Court. I think it's John J. Kissinger Jr. And they're just totally rubber stamping everything the prosecution says because, there's a conflict of interest. They're beneficiaries in the same pension fund, all this stuff. You know the whole deal, Mike. So anyways, we got a hearing, a final hearing before the trial on Monday. I'm going to introduce
coming Monday.
Yep, this coming Monday. I'm going to at the Circuit Court the Superior Court on 5 Court Street there in Concord. The case will be Shallon Spalding or State versus Shallon Spalding. If anybody wants to come to that, and the court,
for the purpose of really just correcting the record, is that correct?
No. Well, I'm trying to correct the record. with these guys, but they're not listening to anything I got to say. In this court.
Are they still attempting to take the child at all?
No, they're not attempting to take the child. They're just trying to convict my wife of child endangerment is what they're trying to do.
Okay. And it would be like, did you say, a year, 45 days?
The maximum sentence would be...
with suspended or something?
That was the last sentence, but because it's a trial de novo, and the maximum penalty is a year in prison and a $2,000 fine, that could potentially happen. But my wife is like, she's never done anything wrong. She's got like one speeding ticket.
Being innocent has nothing to do with it.
Right.
That's true.
All right? I mean, and that's even with the letter of the law, and I know there's certain constitutional people, but listen, they cheat.
Yes.
It's corrupt.
Yes.
So in other words, they're maneuvering, they control the judgments, and they control the appeal.
Right.
So what I would tell you is, by challenging this, so in other words, you wouldn't be in jeopardy to going to jail, but if you challenge it, you're in the jeopardy of going to jail for a year. Is that correct?
Basically, yep.
Then why are you chancing it? To correct the record? Written by a corrupt individual, knowing that it's a lie?
Because
I mean,
so we have appeals court. I set this all up for appeal. We have a really bulletproof.
Yeah, but they own the appeals court, right?
Sure. Well, I'm going to bring up Monday in court the conflict of interest with the Judicial Pension Fund, with how family court is a cash cow for the New Hampshire Judicial Pension Fund.
Something? We know that, and I'm telling you, I know about Title IV D money.
Yep.
I mean, I had the federal investigator. I had the federal accountant on it. So I know all about this.
Yep.
But I also know that they control and they create the decision they want. We're not seeing Trump in court. I had 106 witnesses, 46 for the court, and that weren't allowed to bring them in.
So
what I would tell you is, you have your child is safe. Do not take a chance of winding up in jail. And when you're in jail, what you understand is you're at their mercy there.
Sure.
There's no ways to run. So in other words, you've got your child is safe.
Yep.
And if it's just like one of these things that could go away after that, do not risk going into that court. Because, listen, they make precedents intentionally. They send the message to the next person about challenging them.
Yeah, they try to make examples if anyone tries to take it harder and further. And then it's like anyone that ever would have challenged it, they're like looking at that and be like scared. They don't want to touch it.
What we have here in New Hampshire is essentially a citizen legislature. So because of the Free State Project, we have a whole bunch of people in the legislature now that are free staters. So I did an affidavit to Leah Cushman. Leah Cushman is on the Health and Humans Services Committee. So she has brought a committee to investigate DCYF specifically with my case. The next committee I'm going to is a judicial committee, and there is some good
judicial committee.
Yeah, and we have.
You know what joke that is?
Well, we have
and how about this? The PCC, you didn't go after a lawyer, the Personal Conduct Committee, the worst of the worst of what controls it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how there is no justice there. That's their protection. They keep JCC, Judicial Conduct Committee controls the judges with their licensing. The PCC, it's the lawyers. So when they say, why isn't anybody saying anything? Because they're controlled by the license, by the department. So if you're going here to find justice, you're making a horrific mistake.
I'm not going to the judges to find justice. I'm going to the legislature to find justice. And we have good people in the legislature.
Did they come up and help you?
Yes. The courtroom was packed. They actually couldn't fit any more people in the courtroom.
Multiple cameras.
What are they doing listen, their attendance is good and supportive. Are they bringing lawyers to it?
They're not bringing. We cannot find lawyers, but that will do anything with this. But we have a very active legislature that understands what's going on. They want freedom.
Really, no free state lawyers would help you.
No.
Well, there aren't any free state lawyers.
All the lawyers are compromised.
No, yes, there is.
Yeah,
Broderick, for instance. He was working with Aaron Day and O'Keefe. I know about Broderick.
Broderick?
I'll look into Broderick. Hey,
Broderick is a criminal, but they're all criminals. Broderick's is a criminal, but he's a free stater too.
Well, so hey, Mike, my email is jay@jaynoon.com. That's JAY@JAYNOONE.com.
Listen, I may not call people back because I don't recognize them, and people are looking for my numbers.
Do you want to stay on the line and I can just get you guys
right now.
connected after?
Hang on for a minute after
yeah, if
the
you
show.
don't mind hanging on, I'm just going to put you on hold. It's been Free Talk Live. Thanks for listening, guys. Been a real different, real interesting episode. You never know who might call in. freetalklive.com is where you can go for more. Peace.
Are you a sneezer? If you're not, can you get close to one? I don't literally mean someone sneezing. Sneezer, as defined by marketing guru Seth Godin, is an opinion leader. When a sneezer mentions something, other people catch what Godin calls the idea virus. Seth Godin says some people are more likely to tell their friends about a great new idea. So identifying and courting sneezers is a key success factor for idea